they put a lot of men through what they put me through, 5% of men would have literally taken their own lives.
Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan have visited a police station.
Someone has to save England from itself before I'd ever consider living there. It's a toxic environment. But you are a huge fan of the UK.
I'm a huge fan of the UK.
So you can't sell me England.
Narrative of, again, immigrants coming to the country, stabbing people.
So this isn't a race issue. And I can look at the faces of a lot of the people who do the stabbings and certainly the terrorist attacks, and they are brown and they are black people.
Guess who stabbed me?
Who?
A white person.
It doesn't matter if they're...
Wow, it's interesting though, isn't it?
No, not at all. The fact that a white guy stabbed you, I think that's no offense, I think it's a stupid argument. I'm going to be suing people all the time for the rest of my life.
You didn't let me finish my sentence.
How far do I want to go on this?
I'm sat here with Tristan Tate, and thank you very much for coming on my show.
Glad to be here,
You're
sir.
a gentleman, and this is an exclusive interview because it's your first interview since coming out of Romania.
Yes, it is. It's my first.
So what made you choose this podcast of all the many podcasts that you could be on?
Well, I got asked to do a lot of them when I was in the United States, of course. That's when the podcast requests really come flowing in. And I was trying to chill and live my life and get my work done. And then Andrew did your podcast and he came home and he said, you know what? While we're here, you should really do Samuel's podcast. And I thought, Samuel, good name, kind of like the guy. And I heard about your weight loss journey and, you know, that's inspirational for people. And I think my main thing that I try to do is inspire people. So why not sit down with people like yourself?
Oh, I appreciate that. I really do. And you know, yourself and Andrew did massively inspire me to lose a lot of weight.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate that. And I think a lot of what you talk about, your messaging is fantastic. Some of it is a little bit, you know, controversial, which we can talk about.
I'm ready.
But yeah, love it. So firstly, tell me what you've been up to. So you went to America. How did you feel when the Florida guy in America was such a jerk to you guys?
Well, here's the truth. The media are very powerful, as we know. The legacy media still maintain this grip of power over narratives that control the world. And I wasn't mad, I was disappointed. In the way that if I tell everybody that you are a murderer and you're a serial killer, and I own the BBC and CNN, and I'm George Soros, I own every major news network, and I hammer it home for 2.5 years, so everyone associates you with murderer. They never say your name anymore. They say accused murderer, you know, to Samuel. If you fly into a new country, it's very natural for people to want to protect their own and think, oh, this guy who is a murderer, because the news says he's a murderer, is flying into our country. Let's open an investigation and keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't murder anyone. The fact that I'm not a criminal at all is what makes it so offensive that I land in Florida in my own country where I hold a passport, where my father served in the military, where my grandfather fought in World War II for the United States of America. It's very offensive to land there and have a governor and an attorney general say, oh, well, these are bad guys, so we're going to look into them. We're bad guys because why? Because a Romanian prosecutor said I'm a bad guy? Since when does anyone in the United States politics, certainly, trust the word of Romanian prosecutors above their own reputations? Because what's going to happen is in 180 days, they're going to have to close the Florida investigation and say we found nothing on them. So it turns out they didn't do anything bad in Florida, and they're going to look stupid. So I think it was a very bad gamble on their part to trust their reputations and their integrity on the words of a Romanian prosecutor who isn't that important or high level, and certainly globally, no one cares who the guy is. It's yeah, disappointing is the word.
One of the things I've noticed about you, and it's the first time we've ever met today in person, which is great, but from certainly what I've seen on the internet, is that you always seem extremely chill. You don't seem to get stressed. I've heard, even Andrew's told me the stories of when you got put in prison and you were very calm. Do you reckon that's just the way you're wired? Or is that a skill that you had to practice? Is that like a resilient mind? Or is it that you just don't care and you're just like, well, whatever, I'm happy to be in prison?
I don't know. I always feel there are people in the world that have worse things happen to them. So no matter what bad situation I find myself in, I'm a very reflective person and I'm a very deep thinker. So I think a lot. So there's a fly just landed on my face. It's gone. So I'm a very deep thinker. So I may be stressed and I may be worried and I may be anxious, but I'll never let it show to the outside world because I'm also fully aware that nobody cares about how you feel, especially when you're a man. If you ran around telling everyone, you know, oh, I'm so stressed, I'm so worried, maybe your wife, maybe your mother is going to be like, oh, really, are you okay? But bothering other men with your problems is very stupid. So I internalize my anger and my frustration, I think, more than anybody else. It's not that I don't have it, but yeah, I am very good at appearing, at least on the surface, that I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I don't really give that much of a shit. Yeah, maybe I'm
A combination.
Yeah, it's a combination.
I bet you're very good at poker.
I can be, but I get bored easily. So I'm very, very good for the first 15, 20 hands, and I just get bored, and I'm like, Jack 8, that's not bad, all in. You know?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I get bored with poker, and I want to do something else. So
Yeah.
I end up going all in on stupid hands later on. I've just given away my secret for people who, play with me in the future. Or maybe
you were bluffing.
Maybe
we
that's
don't
a
know.
bluff.
Maybe you were bluffing.
Exactly.
We don't know. So in terms of business then, because a lot of people that watch my channel, they're property investors, they're business owners, they're entrepreneurs. Yes. I mean, I think probably what you're most well known for is, there's the kickboxing and all different things, but it's probably business. You make the money guys. People see you with money and on private jets and stuff like that. So what has been your most lucrative business? I know you've got your casinos, started with your webcams, you've got your Hustlers University and different things. What would you say is the most lucrative business that you've been involved in?
Lucrative all depends on where you are at the time. If you're making no money at all and someone gives you a way of making 10 grand a month, that is the most lucrative business that you've ever run, essentially, because you've increased your net worth by infinitesimal amounts. It's incredible. But so as you can literally map out a timeline of my life, and as and when the years have passed, I've always been making more money the next year than the previous year.
Yeah.
So the most lucrative business I've run in terms of turnover is everything I'm doing now with the online university, university.com and everything else. But that's only because that's where I currently am. I'm not going to take steps back.
Yeah.
So how much money I've made has pretty much always increased. Besides, the last 2 years, it's fluctuated up and down a little bit for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But the most lucrative business I'm in is the business I'm in right now. However, I would say the one that made me my first initial money was sales. I was a salesman. I started off in knocking doors for Anglian Windows, like a lot of young men did in England. I went on then to sell television advertising campaigns back when TV advertising was still something you could sell before the internet really took off. Andrew and a partner, another salesman at the company, went off and branched away and started their own company because the owner was squandering all the money, and I was working for them. And I was bringing in, keep in mind, I'm 19 years old. Back in 17 years ago now, and I was bringing in £5,000 to £8,000 every week in sales.
Very good
sales. So that's the first time I ever felt like I had any money.
Yeah.
It went downhill a bit after that when television advertising became a lot less popular, and then I came up from there. But that's the first time when I'd use my debit card for things, but not have to think about how much was on there, which is a very good feeling.
Yeah.
Now I don't care what I buy, and now everyone knows I'm wealthy because Andrew and I are now at the point beyond pretending. You can rent a Lamborghini and take a picture in Dubai and pretend you're rich, but when you have $6 million cars with your name, inscribed on them, and you're flying around private jets everywhere, you clearly have lots of money. So we're at the point past what people can pretend. And I've never felt richer than when I was maybe 19 or 20 years old, though.
Yeah.
Never, ever. I had no food in the fridge, and then I went from no food in the fridge to I can rent a nice apartment, $4 or $5 grand a month. I can finance a nice car, a Porsche, a BMW M4, things like that. Yeah, I felt very rich.
Well, I remember Andrew Tate back in the day saying that if you're worth about 30, 40 million, the difference between your lifestyle and being a multi-billionaire is very, very small.
Well,
I don't know if you agree with that, or he's changed his mind since now he's worth more.
He said that back in the day. I'd say probably 75 to 90 million is probably the number, to be honest.
Well, inflation is probably the same story.
Yeah, inflation's taken a chunk of everybody's ass, but essentially what he
his net worth was probably that at the time, because you always feel like...
Yes, but yes.
He's like, there's no point being richer than me.
But now I've surpassed the 75 to 90 number, certainly. And the idea behind of what Andrew's saying is, the richest people in the world, the billionaires of the world, fly the same way I fly. If they wanted to buy the best car they could only buy a car equal to mine.
Yeah.
There probably are some houses that I couldn't afford. I don't know what the most expensive houses in the world are, but...
well, there's ones around here for 150 million.
Yeah, I have properties that are very, very expensive. I certainly have more than that worth of property.
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad to hear.
How much more money could I spend if I had it? I'm actually, now that I've bought my yacht, I've run out of things to buy. My yacht's ready in 17 months. It's under construction now. Now I've got that. I've run out of things to spend money on. So now it's just, it's setting a high score, I guess.
Yeah. And if you were to stop, you probably wouldn't worry about money again. Certainly if it was invested right, which I'm sure it is. But you need purpose.
I mean, it's invested right within limits.
Right.
But Andrew and I are spenders. We've always been the spend what you've got guys.
Yeah.
And back in the day, people assumed, probably before we were on the internet, when we were kickboxers, people assumed we were richer than we were because we had a secondhand Aston Martin that cost me £60,000 back in the day. But at the time I bought that, I had £61,000 in my bank account. So I looked a lot richer than I was because I was always the spend what you've got guy. We only started investing when it got to the point where there was nothing else to spend money on.
Really?
So we started buying properties and real estate and a lot of smart things.
Yeah.
And even now, it's at the point where if I see something that's stupid that I can't really afford, I'll find a way to buy it. So yeah, I could be much richer if I had invested much more of my money. Andrew's got 40 diamond watches. We have 71 cars, maybe 72. I don't even know how many cars we've got. Don't need them, can't count them, don't know, couldn't name them, all on a list. So yeah, I make a lot of stupid purchases, but that's my business, and I can do what I want. I earn my own money, and
there's something in that though. I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily advise everybody to do that per se, but I think I see a lot of teachings which is the opposite, which is save up, the millionaire next door type mentality, where if you work really hard and save up £50 a day, when you're 70, you'll be a multimillionaire.
I'm not interested in that.
No, I'm not.
And I never was. I want to have nice things while I'm young. And I'm still relatively young at 36. Certainly for my net worth, I'm very young. And I like being the guy who turns up. I mean, there's 13 or 14 Bugattis in Dubai. I don't know who drives them, but I've seen them driving around. Usually it's someone much older than myself.
Yeah.
I like being the 36-year-old guy who shows up in a $5 or $6 million car.
Yeah.
Or two $6 million cars, one after the other with my brother and I. So I would say money you enjoy wasting is not money wasted. And people always preach against wasting money. It's called, and there's always, broke people who always talk about what they do if they had money. So when I buy something for $5 million, they overlook the fact that I give millions of dollars to charity every year. They overlook this. And they say, oh, that $5 million, you know how many kids you could feed with that? I say, well, I know exactly how many kids you can feed with that because I feed kids in Syria and all across Africa all the time. I'm always doing that. So yes, I do know how many kids I can do with that. Who have you helped today? I always joke with them. I say, okay, well, that's a nice pair of trainers you're wearing. That's $300. You could have just bought a pair of shoes for 20 quid.
Yeah.
What about the homeless kids in your town, in your city? Why don't you give £280 to them? Why are you wearing those shoes? And they're like, well, that's different. I'm like, no, it's not. It's your money and you could spend it the way you like. And I do like to help people, but I also like to have lots and lots of nice things. Yeah. And, people don't like cars. Some people don't like the stuff that I buy. That's perfectly fine. And that's their prerogative. But these are things I like and I will not be judged for them. Yeah.
Well, I think it's an abundance mindset rather than having a poverty mindset. I'll be a millionaire when I'm 70 and I'd never buy a nice car because I could give that to a charity. Well, I can do both.
Yeah, exactly.
I can be a millionaire when I'm 70 and I'll be a millionaire now. I can drive a nice car and give to charity now.
Yes.
And I think when you're in sales as well, especially, which is the best business on the planet.
It's the best skill to have.
It is. Yeah. But when you're in sales, if you're spending money, it's forcing you to be more hungry and make money. So there's something in it.
Exactly. But you have to be careful of people who try to warn you away from making money and try and scare you away from wealth because their arguments are always stupid. Their arguments, forget the charity one I've heard all the time. I just met your wife and son 5 minutes ago. They'll say stupid things like, oh, I don't need a bunch of money because I've got my wife and my son and I'm perfectly happy because I've got my beautiful family. I'm like, you think rich people don't have beautiful families? You think I don't have beautiful families? You think me and Andrew and you don't have kids and wives and women that we love and people that we care about? I would say that my family relationships are better than almost anyone in the world. Like, I'm doing pretty well. But the arguments they come up with against making money are coping mechanisms for themselves and ways to explain their failures to the people around them. Like, don't worry, kids. Oh, yeah, that Andrew Tate guy's driving around that $5 million car. But you've got me, your dad at home, who loves you both. And he sits there playing video games all day, smoking marijuana, setting a bad example for his kids. That's not love, one. And two, I love my kids too. And my kids probably love me more than that guy's kids love him. So avoid people giving you stupid arguments to not make money because there is no reason not to do it. Oh, I don't want to live in Dubai. Okay, what do you want to do? Oh, I just want to live in a farm in the forest away from everybody and just grow my own food. Cool, well, that's a $1.6 million investment. So where's your money? Go and do it. I've noticed that you're working a crappy office job in Middlesbrough. Why are you talking about farms? Like, don't tell me what you do if you had money. Why don't you, at least prove yourself? And then I will never... When someone actually is wealthy, I'll take Elon as an example, as the wealthiest man in the world and far wealthier than me. He's like, oh yeah, I don't own a house. And then I'll buy a house. And then someone with no money will be like, well, Elon doesn't own a house. Elon could do what he wants. I could do what I want. You could do what you want. Yeah. It's really stupid. And
it is stupid. There was a guy actually, I don't know, do you know Simon Squibb? Have you heard of him?
No,
No,
haven't.
it's probably for the best.
Should I have heard of him?
Probably not.
Yeah.
So he does a whole thing about you shouldn't buy property, and I'm in the property industry,
Yes.
so take it maybe a little bit personal.
I bet.
But one of his big arguments is Elon Musk doesn't buy houses, and it's like Elon Musk is Elon Musk. He's buying land in Mars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's built different.
Yeah,
he's doing
yeah.
things that we can't even think.
But the average person, if you look on the Sunday Times rich list, they are investing in property. They are. Come on, don't be ridiculous.
No, they should be. And it's an argument to authority. And the problem with arguments to authority is these people always have less authority than I do. So they'll say, well, Elon Musk does this, or Bill Gates does this, or Warren Buffett lives in the same house and drives the same car and invests in the stock market, and you should. I'm like, okay, if you're going to use an argument from authority, as in this guy has more authority, so I should listen to this guy, then why don't you listen to me when I say do X, Y, and Z? Because I have more authority financially and success-wise and fame-wise than you do.
Yeah.
So, but they use it to criticize others, and it's really hypocritical and embarrassing.
If you want to be something, you find someone that's done it already, and that's their opinion. If you don't listen to a fat guy, that's why I listened to you and Andrew when you talked about weight loss and how to get. Andrew was messaging me on WhatsApp saying eat 1 meal a day, drink black coffee. And I wasn't thinking, but no, because this book says it's like the guy's in very good shape. I'm not, I'm going to listen to what he says. Yeah. And it's the same with finance. If you want to make a lot of money, find someone that's done it. If you don't want to make a lot of money, no problem. Exactly. I tell people, if you don't want to make a lot of money, don't listen to me.
And the exciting thing about business and finance is there's lots of different ways to do it. If you sit at a table with 50 millionaires and say, how'd you make your first million? How'd you make your first 10 million?
Right.
You'll get 50 very different stories. Some of them may, echo each other. However, you're going to get 50 very unique stories from 50 unique people about ways they did it. Ways that you and I wouldn't even think of. I was sitting with a very wealthy man the other day, and he was just like, I'm working on a big metals deal with which African country was it? I don't know. Maybe Uganda. I'm signing a metals deal with Uganda and the United States. I'm like, metals in Uganda with the United States? I'm like, I can't even fathom how that works, and the guy's richer than I am. But finance is very interesting because you could do it millions of different ways. And every single rich person has a unique story. You can't just copy and paste somebody. What you have to do is you need to adapt the mindset that we all share, because those 50 people, those hypothetical people I explained sitting around this hypothetical table with their different stories, will all have at least some very similar attributes. Yes. And that's what I've noticed. Yeah. They think in a certain way.
Philosophies.
Yes, exactly. They don't oversleep. They don't sleep all day till 2 a.m. They don't waste time doing stupid things. You know? So by all means copy the mindset, but then apply it to what you want to do and what you think you'll be good at.
You won't spend £1 to come and spend a day with someone for £1 who's made tens and tens of millions of pounds from scratch, then you don't deserve to be rich. So I'm giving you a challenge right now. I am giving a day up of my time, and I'm inviting you to come and spend a full day with me for £1. And if you don't live anywhere near me, because I live in the UK, so I'm going to be doing multiple dates. I'm going to be touring across the UK. You can tune in over Zoom and do the virtual version. So there's absolutely no excuses. I'm going to show you how to make money from scratch, how to invest, how to protect your assets, and ultimately predict what's going to happen in the future, prepare for it, and get cash right now. You need to be making fast cash right now. That's what I'm going to be showing you all day. And guess what? It's not thousands of pounds. It's £1. Just to show you got a tiny bit of skin in the game. SamuelLeeds.com. Get your £1 tickets. Link in bio. There is no excuses. Wherever you are in the world, come or tune in virtually. I'll see you there. Back to the video. I'm very curious to know a little bit about your business structure with Andrew. Sure. Because it looks like you guys very much, you're kind of interlinked. Your business partners, your brothers, you share money, extremely close, which we've seen. Do you have roles and responsibilities within the businesses, or do you just both do similar things? Like what's the organizational structure or the roles and responsibilities of the everyday running of your businesses that you have?
Andrew is a lot more technical. Andrew is a lot more the spreadsheets, the staff, the micromanagement. And I'm more if Andrew gives me a big project to be in charge of and says, make sure this happens, then I have to manage, I guess, some of the larger things. But Andrew's role is arguably much more important because, I won't notice certain things. If our payment processor increases our payment processing fees by 0.2% and, tens of thousands of dollars are going missing, he'll notice and I won't notice. So Andrew's the guy who makes sure absolutely nothing goes wrong. I'm somewhat more of a people person. Andrew's, I guess, slightly more introverted. If there's business dinners that last till 2, 3 in the morning, he'll send me. He won't go himself.
Yeah.
But it's not something I've ever really thought about, and it's not something we've ever mapped out or planned. I think we just both are willing and happy to do what needs to be done. And there's this, I guess the essence of our business relationship is not wanting to disappoint the other brother. You know, I can't just vanish and take a week off. No, he's working. I have to work. You know, when Andrew was on house arrest, I didn't leave the house. I wasn't on house arrest the second time around. I did 6 months on house arrest voluntarily because he was on house arrest.
Yeah.
There's this idea of not wanting to let the other guy down. And I think that's maybe the most powerful aspect of mine and Andrew's relationship. And it's why I encourage young men, especially when they're up and coming in the world, instead of renting an apartment, rent an apartment with a friend, an ambitious friend.
Right.
You'll both train more, you'll both work more, you'll both think more, you'll brainstorm more, you'll waste less time. I think the relationship I have with Andrew is the foundation to everything both of us have in our life, and I'm very grateful for it.
Who do you think works harder on the business?
Andrew, and Andrew would say Andrew, and I can't
Really?
say I can't say it.
Do you get paid the same?
Well, yes, but we don't get paid in the.
No, but if you take a dividend out of the business, or however you look at it, do you spend the same amount of money on stuff?
Do we spend the same amount of money on stuff? I don't know. I think Andrew, but then whose stuff is it? If I buy a car, or if he buys a car, it's both of our car. So like, it doesn't really work that way at all. The person who wastes the most money is Andrew, but it's all in one. I'm not going to say where it is. Let's say it's all in one pot. I keep it next to my bed.
But
right?
what would happen if you started spending more money through the accounts that you have? Would he go, hey, what the hell?
At this point, it wouldn't matter. We have nothing left to buy. We discuss large purchases, and that's it. Real estate, hypercars, not supercars.
So he spends more money.
He spends more money.
He works more, brings more to the table, but you share money and kind of just...
He's addicted to cars. That's his only problem.
Yeah.
I'd have 7 or 8 cars if it were up to me.
When you were growing though in the earlier days, and you couldn't just buy a yacht, did you have like limits of how much you could take out? Like, would you have been able to just, because if you're sharing money, you've got the business account, and you just said, I want to buy a yacht, but you couldn't really afford it. Maybe you could, and would you be able to just go, I'm taking that out to buy a yacht?
I mean, it's always been this way, and large purchases have changed from a meal out to a super yacht. Large purchases back in the day were a lot smaller, but we've always discussed large purchases, and besides that, spend what you want. Yeah. And we've never really thought about it too much. I mean, you're asking questions that I've never thought about the answers to. And I can't really...
Do you know why though? Because me and my brother are business partners. Yeah. So these are stuff...
So you run it that way.
No, I haven't said anything. I've been asking questions.
I'm guessing. I'm inferring from your questions that one of you spends more than the other.
No, actually. But we've talked about it. We've got a setup. It's whereas I kind of sense that you just act and live. But it's worked,
We're together 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day. So it's not like... I don't see him and I check the account and there's a bunch of money missing. It's like we go out, we go to a car garage, we buy this, we go to the yacht show, we purchase this. Almost everything is a joint decision.
I think you live together, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
So that kind of makes it a bit different. If you had your house, he had his house, you had your family in your house, and it might be a little different, maybe. Maybe. So it's very interesting.
We'll always live together.
Will you?
Yeah, forever.
That's really interesting.
I'm never not going to live with him. I can't.
Really?
Yeah.
What about if he decided that he didn't want to anymore?
He wouldn't.
Is that an agreement?
No, it's not even an agreement. He wouldn't. He would absolutely hate to not live with me. And I'd hate to not live with him.
Why though? Is that because you get on or because you're valuable to each other in business? No,
it's because there are like, in movies when you have like 2 magical objects and you bring them together and that's where the magic happens. Yeah. Every great idea we've ever had, every, big kick forward we've ever had, it's us 2 sitting around a table smoking cigars, discussing ideas. Yeah. I'm not going to deprive him of that power, and he wouldn't deprive me of that power.
Does it upset your girlfriend's wives? Do they sometimes get a bit like, what the heck's this?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter?
It's a non-negotiable. It's just like, does I'm trying to think of an example. Does me being tall upset people? Like, it's a non-negotiable. I can't change my height. Yeah. It's not something that anybody could possibly complain about. And I think if anybody in my life were upset by it at all, they'd know not to mention it, because why would you mention it? It's like to tell me to stop having brown eyes. It's not going to work. It's just part of the package.
Have you seen a lot of brothers inspired by your relationship when they've come closer together, or they've been? Because it's sad when you see brothers fall. I respect that a lot about you and Andrew. The fact that you've got such a strong sense of brotherhood and you work together, especially when I work with my brother.
Yeah,
I think it's really inspiring.
Those are my favorite inspirational stories. When brothers tell me that, you know, they were living states apart in the United States, let's say 3 or 4 states apart. They didn't talk that much. They spoke on the phone once every month or so, or met at family gatherings. And now they started a business together, or they're working together, or they've, you know, just moved each other's families next to each other. So they're next door neighbors. Yeah. When I hear these stories, and all of these examples I gave are true. I've read them on my DMs. That's what I get. I guess that's what I get the most out of. You know, when I hear that brothers have strengthened their relationship from Andrew and I. It's all good, you know, the fitness stories and the weight loss stories, but there's also fitness guys out there. The brotherhood I have with Andrew, there's nothing I've ever seen on the internet, besides one pair of brothers, actually, that I thought was comparable. And I'm going to say one pair of brothers, and you probably remember them because you're English back in the day. You know, my heart broke when one of the Chuckle brothers died. Yeah. Because he posted this thing on X, and he got almost no views and no likes on it because, you know, he's really old now and people don't really remember him. He's got a small X account. And I read it and I just thought, I'm so fucking lucky to have Andrew. Because those two were together like their whole lives, every TV show, everything together. But besides me and Andrew, what other brothers are there out there as famous for their relationship as Andrew and I? So yes, there are other fitness guys. Yes, there are other money guys. But that's something that I think is quite unique to us. So when I hear those stories, that's what really makes me happy.
How do you feel when you see news articles, even yesterday, when I dropped my podcast with Andrew? Yeah. The BBC dropped their own little video.
BBC. Wonderful.
Saying Andrew Tate pulled a gun on a woman's face, allegedly.
Allegedly. So you know, it's like, how long are they going to keep this up? First, First, we're misogynists. Then, for misogyny, homophobia, and racism, they tie into one big package. So when Andrew and I first started coming about, they said we're misogynistic, homophobic, and racist because they found a clip of me and my friends making racist jokes to each other, which all good friends do. And they dropped the racist very quickly because they had no idea that my father was a black man. So they were like, okay, well, he's not racist. Let's get rid of that. He's a misogynist. That's what it started as. Andrew Tate's a misogynist. Then the criminal accusations came. Andrew Tate's a human trafficker. Okay, well, I'm a human trafficker. Interesting. That was thrown out, by the way, in December 19th of last year. I'm going to make this clear because I say it on every podcast and no one covers it. The news didn't cover this. On December 19th last year, a judge threw the case out and said there's insufficient evidence to even have a trial about this. So that's what happened last year. That's one of the reasons I'm free today. That's one of the reasons I'm free. Everyone's like, well, why are they free? Well, because there wasn't enough evidence after 2.5 years of investigation for a judge to even think it was worthy of a trial. So then I was a human trafficker. Then I was a rapist. Now Andrew's gangs of London pulling guns on girls' heads and stuff 15 years ago, allegedly. I don't know where you'd get a gun in England 15 years ago. I was working as a telephone salesman. I don't know why Andrew would have had a gun. I don't know what they're going to come up with next.
He told me it was a water gun.
It may have been. I mean, I don't know if he's ever pointed a water gun at somebody. Probably. But he's certainly never owned a firearm illegally. And in the United Kingdom, you can't own a firearm legally. So he's certainly never owned a firearm. So I see these articles all the time, and I'm like, what are they going to come up with next? You know, when that retard killed his girlfriend with a crossbow, they blamed Andrew for it. Yeah. They said, well, he consumed Andrew Tate content in the last 24 hours. Sorry. How many people? Maybe 100 million people consumed Andrew Tate content in the last 24 hours. 100 million, if you check their laptops, have consumed Andrew Tate content in the last 24 hours. How many of them commit a crime the same day? I don't care what the actual number is, but let's look at the other content he consumed. What did he do in the last 24 hours besides that? Because he watched Andrew Tate. Sure. What songs did he listen to? Did he listen to Taylor Swift in the last 24 hours? Potentially. She's one of the biggest artists in the world. Andrew's one of the most famous podcast guys in the world. So is Taylor Swift responsible for his crossbow massacre? Did he eat at Five Guys restaurant in the afternoon before he did it within 24 hours? Maybe the chemicals in Five Guys are responsible. Like, I don't care what this idiot did in the last 24 hours before he killed his girlfriend with a crossbow. There's absolutely, even if you take the most out of context clips of mine and Andrew's body of work over the last 13 years, you will never find anything that inspires you to kill somebody for any reason unless it's just some sort of joke. But this retard has nothing to do with me, and I do not take responsibility for him. So I don't know what they're going to come up with next. You know, now he's pointing a gun at a girl's head. Next, I'm a terrorist, a genocidal maniac.
Do you think they'll give up?
They've run out of things to say about.
Do you think they'll stop eventually? And just do you know who you remind me a little bit of? Not like the Tate brothers, a tiny bit. I don't know if you will remember when Eminem blew up back in the 90s.
I remember.
And it was like, he was saying offensive stuff, and he was a bit of, and all the parents were saying, don't listen to him. Yeah. But then after a while, people realised, actually, he's not a criminal. He's just joking.
Yeah.
I love what he says, he's just kind of joking. And now he's just seen as a bit of a legend. And could it go that way? Could people realise that a lot of the stuff mainly Andrew, to be honest, but a lot of the stuff that you together have said, some of it's joking.
Yes.
Said in humour.
Yeah.
And then over time, it's like, oh yeah, they're not actually criminals. They're not actually human traffickers. And people just accept that you're just, you know.
They're still trying now. The fact that the case being thrown out in December as not fit to go to trial should have been national news. But the fact that it wasn't means they're still trying to slander our reputation. And now this gun story's come out. Yeah. I think
my video got more views than the BBC video.
Of course, but no one cares about the BBC anymore. They've lost all credibility. But it's at the point where this is the way it has to happen, because I don't care who launches a criminal case on me. Dubai could launch a criminal case on me tomorrow and say, oh, well, he's in my country. I heard he was a human trafficker. Let's investigate the guy. That's going to go nowhere. It's all going to go nowhere. Romania had the best chance of, I guess, trying to make it look like I was a criminal because I'd lived there for 11 years or 10 years, probably 9 by the time I was arrested. So they had my entire 9-year life. Every message I've ever sent, every text message I've ever sent, every email I've ever sent, every girl I've ever dated, every girl who worked at my old webcam studio. They interviewed all them, and they were really trying to prove I was a human trafficker somehow, and they completely failed. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't care which country tries next. I was in Florida. I wouldn't even talk to girls who were talking to me in clubs. Oh, hi, you're Tristan Tate. Here's my number. No, thanks.
Yeah.
Not interested. So I don't know what Florida's going to come up with. I don't care if New York, California, Japan, China, Dubai, the Central African Republic. I don't care who comes up with, we need to investigate the Tate brothers. The Romanians tried their absolute hardest and failed because I'm not a criminal. And they had the help of the Democratic Party of the United States. They had help of the FBI. They had the help of Anthony Blinken. They had the help of the UK Foreign Office, all trying to pin something on me to prove I was a criminal, and they couldn't. So eventually, all these criminal cases are going to go away. They have to go away because I've never committed a crime, and they can only drag them out for so long. And now that I'm free and I'm making money again, they can't bankrupt me, they can't make me shut up, they can't get what they want out of me.
Yeah.
So it is going to be a hero's arc journey of, you know, everyone saying I'm some sort of villain. And unless they shoot me, I don't see how it can end any other way. It's not going to end with me in a court and them saying, he's actually guilty of this, and a judge putting his hammer down. And if it did, I mean, depending on what country, who would believe it?
I decided to sponsor the video myself and talk about my new book, which also nobody would publish. Because in the book, I expose the globalist elitists, such as the World Economic Forum. I have made tens and tens of millions of pounds myself. I sit on the tables. I've got friends who are billionaires. I know the people that own some of the banks. I know the people that own some of the institutions. So I know what's going to happen to the future of money and how to prepare for it. And I wrote a book. Nobody would publish the book. I published it myself, and it's called The Future of Money. You need to read this book. It will blow your mind. It will set you free. And ultimately, it will mean that you can predict what's going to happen so you know how to act now, how to build a business from scratch, how to buy properties, how to protect your assets, owning real assets, not fake assets. This entire book that I wrote myself, you can get right now because you're watching this interview with Andrew Tate. I'm going to give it you as a gift completely for free. Click the link in the description. You can download it. I'll email it to you as an instant PDF, and it's completely for free. Do it now before it's too late. Offer will expire. Do it now. Back to the video. Thing is, though, there's a lot of comedians and rappers and also all kinds of famous people that say things in jest.
Yes.
Like if you look at Jimmy Carr,
yes,
who's a very funny comedian.
He's made more rape jokes than I have.
Right. He makes paedophilia jokes.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
I'm quite thick-skinned, but I sometimes squirm watching him. I'm a bit like, oh, that's just distasteful, you know. As funny as he is, I do respect Jimmy certainly as a comedian. But then for some reason, when people rap about things, you got 50 Cent saying stuff. It's all fine. Even though, like 50 Cent, when he says he got shot 2 weeks later, admitting to murder, and people just go, it's just a song. Jimmy Carr, it's just a comedy show. Yeah. But for some reason, Tate speech.
Everything we say is serious.
It is.
You have to take
Right,
it as gospel.
But why is that?
We mean everything
Why?
we say.
Why?
No, it's because they want to attack us, and the media want to slander us and tell us that we're bad guys. Because
Could you just change your profile to Tristan Tate, comedian? Now you're a comedian.
check my ex profile right now?
What does it? No. What does it say? What does it say?
Check the bio. What does it say?
I want to look at it.
So Tate the Talisman on X. Check what it says. Oh, I've already thought of this idea. You think I haven't thought of that? I'm a chess player. I think strategically.
Go on it. This is
Because I was sick of people using my tweets. Kickboxer, father, businessman, comedy genius, brother of Go.
My goodness! When did you do that?
About a year ago. About 1 year ago.
I never noticed that.
Yeah.
You're ahead of the game.
Yeah, but
Luke 23:34. What does that say?
It's a Bible verse.
Do you remember what it says?
Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Why did you put that on there?
Because I'm happy to forgive my enemies, because I understand who gives them instructions and who's telling them to do this and the effects they've had on my life. I'm lucky I'm a very strong-minded person, and I make no jokes about this. It's a very serious thing. If they put a lot of men through what they put me through, 5% of men would have literally taken their own lives.
More than that.
This is serious.
Yeah.
What I've been through is serious. I've had bricks thrown through my children's windows. I have a daughter that when this certainly first started, all of her friends in the neighborhood, the parents banned her from talking to her. I had to buy her a dog, took all my daughter's friends away. She was crying every day that she couldn't go out and play with the other kids because every time she went out, the other kids would hide into their houses. It's what they've done to me is sick, and it's really reverberated throughout my life. Like, yeah, I'm a tough guy. I can take it. But, when it starts affecting your kids, my mother had a heart attack a week after the BBC were hammering on her window trying to get her out to come and make comments. A week later, she had a heart attack and almost died. And I was in Romania. She had to have life-saving stent graft surgery. The effects that this has had on my life have been brutal, but I put that there to remind myself not to harbor hate for my persecutors, because what they want to do is to turn me into a hateful person. Because hateful people, let's say, I'm not even going to talk about myself because I don't want this to sound too like I've thought about this, because I haven't. But let's say you take a innocent man who's done nothing wrong and you say, oh, he grabbed a girl's ass at his job, for example, right? And he's a good guy, he's worked his job, the girl's just lying about him, okay? Yeah. Well, what's going to happen? Everyone's going to believe the girl, she's going to cry to the HR department. First of all, there's going to be an investigation. Then he's probably going to get fired. Then he's probably going to get arrested. He's going to get charged with a sexual misdemeanor of some sort. He's going to be put on some sort of sexual registry list. His wife's going to leave him, he's going to lose his house, he's going to lose everything. And let's say one day he says, you know what, fuck it, and walks into the office building and just shoots everyone, right? That's because they got to him and they turned him into a hateful person. Now, I haven't thought of levels of revenge like this. This is a hypothetical situation. But I'm fully aware that this is what they want to do. Because the moment that guy shoots up the office building, they're like, oh, yeah, he was a molesting, sexual abusing psychopath. And look, he shot up his office building. When really he was just a good guy who was pushed to the edge. So I will not let them push me to the edge. So I have that Bible verse in my bio. So every time I open my phone and every time I open X, I'm reminded of it. And I think, you know what? Let these people do what they're doing and let them write words on their little bits of paper and file them around and stamp them unknowingly, trying to ruin my life and causing situations where my kids get death threats and people are making pornography images with my daughter's face, photoshopped onto it. She's 3, by the way, and emailing it around to everyone I know. I'm just
disgusting.
Like, yeah, but this is all coming from the fact that people are in their offices doing bits of paper thinking, oh, maybe I'll get a promotion if I can find that this guy's a criminal. And I'm like, they don't really know what they're doing.
Right.
That's why I put that there. They don't understand the effects of what they are doing. And I'm sure these people know that I'm not a human trafficker because I'm not going to get into the case, but it's fucking ridiculous. I had a girl actually crying to me a year and a half ago. She lost her job. Not a year and a half ago. Yeah, a year. No. When was this? Maybe half a year ago, when I was first allowed to talk to her again. She calls me up and says, Tristan, I need to talk to you. She comes to my house. She goes, Tristan, can I have some money and borrow some money? I said, why do you want to borrow some money? She goes, I've lost my job. No one in my town talks to me anymore. Everyone hates me. Everyone thinks I'm a prostitute or something. I said, why? Because the police in Romania labeled her, just because she used to date me, as a victim of human trafficking. And if you label a girl a victim of human trafficking, if I say your sister was a victim of human trafficking, you believe she was sexually assaulted, raped, prostituted, drug addict, you assume all these things about her. The girls who are named as victims in my file, their lives have been ruined. Not by me, by the authorities trying to prove I'm a bad guy. I took a holiday to Spain with this girl. That was why they put her on the list of victims. And she was speaking to me, and she still does to this day, saying, these people have ruined my life and my reputation. They've completely destroyed my life. So she is now a victim, but not a victim of me. So yeah, they know not what they do.
Yeah.
They're not fully aware of the repercussions of their own actions. And I wish it was just me. I wish I could suffer 10 times more, and nobody around me, including my brother and I come as a package. I guess they're going to get him. But I'd suffer 10 times more happily for everyone else to be fine and for them to leave everybody else the fuck alone. But they don't.
Do you forgive them?
Most of them, but just because I forgive them doesn't mean that they won't pay for what they've done.
Right. That's justice. There's a difference between justice and revenge.
Exactly.
So you're suing people right now, right? You're suing the BBC.
I'm suing a lot of people for a lot of reasons.
Are you suing the BBC?
I will be suing the BBC.
Do you think you'll win?
I think they'll settle. I think they'll have to settle with me because the amount of... It's not about what they've said and what they haven't said, because I did get arrested, they covered the story. I did get accused of X, Y, and Z, and they covered the story. What the BBC did, which was abusive, is every 24 to 48 hours for 2.5 years, posting stories about me, trying to link things to me, and trying to say I'm a criminal every single day for 2.5 years' time. That is overreach. There's no need to be covering this story. My case has been thrown out. The BBC now, if they write my name, they'll say accused human trafficker, even today. So
it's true.
Yes, but they're a arm of the British government. They're funded by the British taxpayer. And what they've done to me, a British citizen, by saying this all the time, you could just let me win my case, which I did. Well, almost.
It was thrown out.
Yeah, well, it was thrown out. The Romanian system's complicated. It's still now ongoing because they can investigate it some more, but there's nothing else to even put on their stupid bits of paper. But essentially, the BBC are, Hugh Edwards worked for the BBC, and he is a pedophile, and he was buying child porn. And buying child porn doesn't sound that bad. I don't call it buying child porn. I call it facilitating child rape. Because if somebody is purchasing images, Class A images of children being raped, they're creating a demand for the market, which is leading to the direct sexual assault of children, which is sickening, and it's wrong. So you're not buying child porn. These children are not porn actors or porn stars getting paid for their content. Children are being raped, and Hugh Edwards was using, funnily enough, our money as UK taxpayers, because he works for the BBC, to fund his disgusting habit, and he got a suspended sentence, 0 jail time. I'll actually show you something. In my phone, under favorites in my photographs, I have this. Because the BBC love to come and talk to me. The BBC love to come up to me and ask me stupid questions about, hey, Tristan, are you a criminal? You're a criminal. And I go into favorites. And every time the BBC come up to me, the last time I did this, and now they don't approach me anymore, and they didn't air the story, I said, hey, take a look at this image. You're going to have to blur it out. I said, take a look at this image. Take a look at this image. You work for the BBC, right? Yeah. They're like, why are you showing me that? I said, well, my name is Tristan Tate, and I'm here investigating the rape of children in the United Kingdom, and it was a colleague of yours who was doing it. Do you know this man? Yeah. And I start questioning them about their company's sexual crimes. I'm like, do you know this man? This image was sent to a boy who was 15 years of age on Snapchat. And I start interviewing them about sexual crimes. Yeah. So then the BBC, when I got them that way, the BBC didn't cover the story, didn't put it on TV, and the reporter ran away. I was like, what are you running for, bro? I thought we were here to talk about sexual crimes. No? Yeah. Oh, but it's your colleague. The exact same guy who, when I got arrested, was on the news saying I was some sort of bad dude and a danger to young men.
They're very clever, though, the BBC, because they'll say things that are factually true.
Yes.
Like, for instance, if I said, Tristan Tate punched me in the stomach, I've accused you of doing it.
Yes.
Now you've been accused of punching me in the stomach. It's true.
So they say accused, but punching. Yeah,
but that's just one example. Or they'll say...
But the amount they cover the story is the abuse.
Yes.
The 2.5 years of harping on about it every single day to tarnish my image is the abuse, which I can sue them for. Because
harassment, isn't it?
Because Hugh Edwards, they covered that story. The BBC covered that story, I think, for like 10 minutes of airtime.
Right.
And they never mentioned it again. That guy is walking free.
How do we stop this, then? What's the solution? Because I think a big part of the solution is people just learning how to think. And if I see a story and it says the word alleged in it, if it says so-called or according to one man, this happened. Who's the man? Like, I'm just.
I've lost faith in people. I've completely lost faith in the general public and people, partly because of what's happened to me. But I see how. Okay, you sit in front of the news every day, all right, And I've been sitting in front of the news every day for a very, very long time. I remember Saddam Hussein's got weapons of mass destruction. We need to invade Iraq. Well, a million Iraqis died. How many English and American service people died for no reason? There were no weapons of mass destruction. They just stole all of his gold. Libya's run by a corrupt dictator, Muammar Gaddafi. You have to get rid of him. Turns out he wasn't a bad guy. Oh, COVID. There's a deadly virus that's going to kill everybody. You have to be locked in your houses. Well, turns out that was crap. But there was a safe, effective vaccine for it. Well, turns out that was crap. Oh, well, the Ukraine war, Putin's just a psycho, invaded Ukraine for no reason. Now people are waking up and being like, that was crap. And I've been watching the news for years, watching everything they've ever said turn to shit. Literally in front of me. Like, everything they've ever told me is a lie. And everything they've ever told you at home is a lie. And then one day, the news is like, well, Andrew Tate and his brother are human traffickers. And you're like, oh, yeah, well, that one's true. Well, then you're a dumbass. And I've lost faith in you. I've lost faith in the general public, and people will not get smarter. A person is smart, but people are dumb. And the mob mentality, where they get online and attack Andrew and I, is embarrassing. I'm like, don't these people have something better to do with their time? Because when I walk out on the streets, on the way here, I was asked for photos by people just in the hallway. People mob me and Andrew. They love us. Women, kids, family men, everyone's coming up to us asking us for pictures. Everyone famous who I meet adores me. Everyone seems to like me. This impression that Andrew and I are hated somehow is whipped up and manufactured by the media. That's what it is, because I've never had a negative interaction with anybody in my life. Yeah. Everybody seems to like me. Everyone wants to shake my hand, take a picture. There will be fathers with kids who will put their kids next to me and take their picture. What kind of father would do that if he believes that I was some sort of criminal? I think everyone knows it's stupid, but the media is very, very powerful.
Yeah. Did you see the show Adolescence?
I would never watch the show.
Do you know about it? Have you heard about it?
I know enough about it. I know that the guy who made the show is an autistic weirdo. I posted about him the other day. And he confessed in an interview that, oh, well, the content that inspired the show, it wasn't really Andrew Tate. It was a bunch of Reddit blogs that I've read. It wasn't Andrew Tate and Manosphere influencers. It was all the Reddit blogs I've read. But, Andrew Tate's a good name. I posted that on my ex. Look at the post. And I'm like, he's basically just admitted to defamation.
Andrew Tate was named.
Yeah, I know.
In the show.
Yeah, he's basically admitted to defamation, and I could sue him for that if I want to. But yeah, he's a weird-looking autistic weirdo, and I think that somebody needs to check his hard drives, because the entire basis of the show, there's something that I hate. It's called incel culture, which is not what Andrew and I stand for at all. I don't know if you know what incel culture is.
I know what it is.
It's men who've
I've not heard of it until Adolescence.
It's men who've completely given up on women, who hate women, who can't stand women. The school shooters of the world are incels, a lot of them. And incel culture is blaming everyone else for your mistakes, which you watch Andrew and I, is the opposite of what Andrew and I preach. It's being a skinny or fat loser who plays video games all day with no money, sitting in your mum's basement being like, women don't want to have sex with me and that's women's fault because women are evil. These people are psychopaths. Incels are psychos, and I have nothing to do with them, and I don't like incel culture at all. But incel culture inspired the show Adolescence. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. The boy in the show is 13 years of age, and the writers have called him an incel, involuntarily celibate. Now, when I was 13, I was collecting Pokemon cards. I wasn't out there trying to get laid. So this guy who's sexualizing these youngsters, this writer who's sexualized these 13-year-olds as being aggressive young men because women don't like them and they can't get laid, I'm like, can someone check this guy's hard drives? Can someone please, investigate this guy? In what universe could a 13-year-old even be an incel anyway? All 13-year-olds should be celibate by default in every country on earth. How is a 13-year-old an incel? And then they try and blame me for incel culture when everything I say is the opposite of incel culture. Why? Because you're asking me about it right now. They said Andrew Tate, so it gets covered in the news, so that I reply to it, so it gets comments on, and so they make more money. And I'm going to be helping myself to some of that money when we sue those motherfuckers, because it's completely inappropriate to just say my name. I mean, we're also not terrorists, for example, to run a show about sleeper cell terrorists in the UK and say they were inspired by Andrew Tate. That would just be, I could definitely sue them. You're telling me I can't sue this guy? Bet I can. Bet I win.
So you plan to sue the makers of Adolescence?
I've got a lot of people to sue. My people to sue list is very, very long. And, I've got probably, a good 10, 15 more years of this. I'm going to be suing people all the time for the rest of my life. Even if it just bankrupts them and I don't even win any money, it'll just be funny.
It's very difficult, very expensive. Not necessarily a problem for you, but to sue people for defamation.
And
I've done it, and I've taken people to court, and I've pressed charges against people, and we've won cases, and people have got criminal records and stuff over it. But it's an extremely laborious and expensive can be process to do that.
Yeah, but it's going to be funny. I'll enjoy it.
It's worth it.
Yeah,
It is worth
working
it.
out is laborious, but I enjoy the results.
Yeah.
So it's just another thing that I think I have to do.
Do you think you're better at sales or marketing?
Sales.
Really?
I think sales is my strength. Andrew's the marketing genius.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you learn that from selling, from having to make a living.
Yeah, from having to make a living. Literally, if I didn't sell, I didn't eat. I used
So
to sell.
what makes you a good salesperson? Or what makes one a good salesperson?
What makes what? Because me and people know me. I'm too well known now. I couldn't pull off face-to-face sales. But I think
you can sell through a video. You can do a video and sell one on many.
Well, yes, I could, but it's all about having faith in the product that you sell. I think when I used to sell TV advertising campaigns, everybody wanted to be on TV. They got to see their advert on TV. They used to get their families around and turn on the channel at the right time, and they got what they paid for. I think that the first thing is make sure you're not selling crap, and make sure that you're selling a product that you have faith in. Even now, when Andrew and I push university.com and the real world, that school, the main way I sell it now, because there's no point in me going online saying I've made the best product ever. I do interviews with students every week. I do
very
10
good,
interviews a day, and just random people from all over the world telling me their success stories.
Yeah.
And I just listen to them, so they do the sales for me. But yeah, have a product you believe in, and don't sell something that you wouldn't want yourself if you had enough money. And that's the first step before you get to all the other hundreds of steps. Be confident, present yourself well, learn how to speak properly. A lot of people don't know how to speak properly. They think they do. They speak one language and they speak it badly. Learn how to speak properly. Learn how to, build a rapport with the people that you're sitting across from. If you sit me with like an old millionaire from Monaco, you sit me with a guy from Luton from the streets, like I can build a rapport with basically anyone I come into contact with. It's very rare for me, unless they're Chinese or Japanese, or that I sit across with somebody and can't establish some type of commonality with them. So that's very important in sales as well. But again, it depends what you're selling.
You're seen as a bit of a gent, aren't you? People say you're a gentleman, and
Sometimes.
so what would you say defines a gentleman? Would you describe yourself as a gent?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. I'm a bit old school. I'm a bit old school. Depends in what context that we're talking about. Depends if you're talking about dating, women, business, just
generally. What does it mean to you to be a gentleman? I see people all the time in the comments. Tristan's a gent. He's a gentleman.
To make sure that everybody you come into contact with leaves with a positive experience, I think I think that's the basis of being a good person.
Yeah.
But if you do that throughout your life, people will call you a gentleman. I guess that's what it means. But I've never described myself as one. So, and I've never thought of myself as one. So you're saying it to me now. I'm trying to think, well, why am I one? I don't really think I am. It's a perception that other people have put onto me. And if everyone in the world calls you a gentleman, then I guess you are. Because if everyone in the world calls you a bellend, you're a bellend, Like, you must be. If everyone you come into contact with is like, oh, this guy's a bellend. For all of you at home.
Unless it's just because it's in the press.
Yeah. Well, unless it's in the press.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
But that's the point. But if everyone you ever meet says you're unpleasant, then you are an unpleasant person, because people's perception matters. So the fact that you're telling me that people see me as a gentleman, then I guess I
think people do, definitely.
I guess I am.
Couple of topics I want to talk about with you. We may agree, may disagree.
Sure.
So I know you own a lot of property, which is great, because I'm massively into property as well. So respect for that. And I believe Andrew said that you bought some stuff over here as well in Dubai, which have performed really well. And also UK. I want to get into the UK because I know you aren't a big fan of the UK.
No, I'm not.
But then
they actually make Netflix series and blame Andrew on all the stabbings, despite the fact that all the stabbings are caused by, the fact that they're not funding schools and youth programs properly, and the fact that they let immigrants in who are unchecked, and some of them are criminals. They actually make Netflix series about Andrew. I don't like the UK. The BBC once called me a human trafficker. I'm not a fan of England. Yeah,
but also, you say you're not going to go back, but then we've got Bruv Party, bro. So.
Oh no, the thing is, that's when I would go. When I say I'm not going to go back,
I mean just to live there under normal circumstances?
I'd never go and live there. Yeah, I am going to go back. I've heard that England have some criminal case on me. I'm going to fly my ass in there and knock on the door to Bedfordshire Police, say, what do you idiots want? After I've won everything else. Fuck them. I'm going to go back to England. I'm an English person. I'm going to go back to my home country. And I'm not going to let propaganda or corrupt police officers trying to make a name for themselves, or politicians who want to say my name in Parliament because they know it will go viral on X. It's their only chance to ever go viral. I'm not going to let those people scare me away from my birthright, which is the fact that I can travel in and out of the United Kingdom as and when I like as a British man. So No, I'm never going to permanently move back unless somebody saves the UK. And that may well be Andrew in 8, 12 years, a long time away. That may well be Andrew, but someone has to save England from itself before I'd ever consider living there. It's a toxic environment. I describe England as like a 10 out of 10 beautiful wife material girl, but she's infected with AIDS and herpes. Like, okay, yeah. I mean, you could see the appeal, but you don't want to go there. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, not really, no.
Because why? Like, where do you live in England?
I live in Buckinghamshire, Beaconsfield.
Is that London? No, that's not.
Just outside London.
Just outside of London. Yeah. And you're a father.
Yeah.
And you have no concerns. If your wife says, "Oh, I'm going into central London today to go shopping," you don't think?
No, I would have. Oh yeah, definitely.
You wouldn't have it?
No, I would.
Well, in what universe can we be the most powerful country in the entire world, the greatest empire the world has ever seen, short 100 years later, get to a point where an Englishman cannot allow his wife and his child to go into London, what should be the greatest city in the world, to buy a few items and come home safely? You think there's a chance, and you probably do, God forbid, let's but you think there's a chance my wife might get stabbed if she buys a Rolex in London. If I sent my girlfriend to London to buy a Rolex with my daughter, I think there's a chance someone stabs my girlfriend and stabs my 3-year-old daughter. Like, that's a very real possibility in the UK these days. It really is. So you can't sell me England.
No, you didn't let me finish my sentence.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, firstly, it's not that I wouldn't let her. It's just that I don't think it would be safe and she wouldn't do it. But she also wouldn't go out in Dubai either. I don't think she'd go anywhere in a big city
But that's
by herself.
perfectly fair. But if she went out in Dubai, she would be perfectly safe.
Would she?
Absolutely.
But there's still crime in, there's still reasonable
There's a little
bit
of crime in Dubai because there's crime everywhere and you can't get rid of it entirely because
the crime rate is actually statistically dropping in England. I'm studying law and it's dropping. The media would make us think it's not because it sells stories and we're aware of it. But actually crime rate is dropping.
Well, it needs to drop a hell of a lot more.
It does, but it is dropping. There's less crime than there's ever been in the UK. I don't see what... There seems to be a lot of, and it pisses me off, a lot of, I hate UK. I don't want you to be part of that, Tristan. I see people banging on at the moment about, we're leaving the UK. The UK's a shithole.
Yes.
And I'm just like, it really isn't. It's fantastic.
What do you think of Keir Starmer?
I respect Keir Starmer. I think that anybody that's in power, I said this to Andrew. Andrew was saying, if someone's done something you want to achieve, then you should respect them. And I said, well, don't you want to be Prime Minister? Do you respect Keir Starmer? I mean, if he was the head of CPS, he's Prime Minister of the UK. By the way, I didn't say I'm a huge fan of Keir Starmer. I'm not saying I'm a huge fan.
But you are a huge fan of the UK.
I am a huge fan of the UK. And I think that Keir Starmer I'm not a huge fan, but I respect him. And I think to say, the UK is terrible and everything's bad and we need to leave this shithole, it's just totally stupid. I think that you create your own economy.
Well, I'm different to you in the way that I don't hate the UK. I actually love the UK. I love the UK, and just like I love my brother and I love my family members and I love my fans and supporters and I love people around the world, if my brother got really fat and out of shape, I'd say, you're a big fat fuck, sort your life out because you look terrible.
Yeah.
You're going to die. Everything's going wrong. Sort it out. And that's love. That's not hate. So I think that perhaps you're misunderstanding my message about the UK.
Maybe not. Because I'm not having a go at you.
Because I love the UK. I actually love the UK so much. I think that London should be the greatest city in the world and the UK should be the greatest country in the world to live in terms of standards of living,
I get you.
Healthcare, people, the wealth that the UK had that's been squandered, what they're doing with it. I'm totally against anybody who is a migrant getting anything free from the British government while they're homeless veterans on the streets. Sort out your veteran problem first before you help like random people turning up in boats getting free hotels rooms. I am super against so many of the things that the UK is doing. I think it needs to sort itself out, and that's love, not hate, because there's a bunch of countries in the world which are run absolutely terribly. I'm sure Lesotho isn't doing that well. However, I don't care about Lesotho. I've never been there. I'm not linked to that country. Whereas, my ancestors are from England. I'm a very proud Englishman. I love English history. English history isn't just English history. English history is world history.
Yeah.
Before America existed, English history was written in the United States. We founded the country. Yeah. Canada, the entire world, Australia. English history is world history. We should be very proud of ourselves, but not to the point where we ignore the problems that we currently have. And my love for my country is to look at it and say, I can't believe you've let yourself go like this.
But what do you mean, though? What do you mean by let yourself go?
Well, you defend England in the way that you say, you've never been stabbed by anyone in England. Well, my brother has too. Well, there we go. So, sorry, I didn't want to assume you'd never been stabbed.
Well, I can show you the scar, bro.
It's
stabbed in the head.
It's normal to assume people haven't been stabbed. But my point is, perhaps, well then...
Guess who stabbed me?
Who?
A white person.
It doesn't matter if they're...
Wow, it's interesting though, isn't it? Because
No, not at all.
Because the narrative of, again, immigrants coming to the country, stabbing people, it's not true, is it?
Well, a lot of the people who are committing, and remember, I'm a mixed race person.
Oh, yeah, no, bro, I get it.
So this isn't a race issue, but again, I can look at the United Kingdom, and I can look at the faces of a lot of the people who do the stabbings, and certainly the terrorist attacks, and they are brown, and they are black people. They are, in a lot of cases. And the fact that a white person stabs somebody does not take that away. Every single country has homegrown criminals. Let me give you an example. There are certain immigrant groups in the United Kingdom that commit more crime than others, okay? Some of them are white, some of them are brown, some of them are black. Whites, Romanians commit a lot of crime. Yeah. I live in Romania, I have Romanian children, so I'm going to speak about Romania specifically just because I don't want to offend anybody, and I don't know where anyone else here is from. Romanians go to the United Kingdom and they commit a lot of crime. They do. They do a lot of the pickpocketing, a lot of the scams. Romanians go there and commit a lot of crime. Now, they're white, okay? It does not help the problem when I say, well, here's a British guy and he scams too. That doesn't help anything at all. That does not fix the problem, the fact that the Romanians are overwhelmingly committing more crime than English people in the United Kingdom. In fact, I think it's, no offense, sir, a very stupid argument, because every single country has criminals. Every single country has its natives who commit crime, and you know how you stop that? You don't. You can't. You cannot stop natives from committing crime. You have to have a good justice system and put these people in jail. But if Romanians are overwhelmingly committing scams, me walking around pointing out the white guy who scammed people, who's from Birmingham, does not help the situation. Whereas if you said, you know what, no more Romanians can come into the UK, that would fix a lot of England's pickpocketing problem. It would. And me pointing at British people who pickpocket doesn't help that. So I'm all for the Romanians, and look, keep in mind, I've lived there for 10 years. My children themselves are Romanian. So if Romanians are overwhelmingly committing crimes in London and they're arrested at a higher percentage of for pickpocketing than English people, I feel like you should say, you know what, no, Romania. No, you're not allowed to come here anymore. If you've got a good job and you're paying taxes and you're a nurse, you could stay. Everyone else, you're on benefits, get out. No free housing, no free hotels, no benefits. Why should you get benefits? Sorry, I pay taxes in England my whole life. If I fall on hard times, that's what the benefit system is for. For me, the Englishman who paid his taxes into the system to go to England and say, I'm on hard times, can me and my kids have some money? Good. It's the welfare system. It's the safety net. It's not for anybody else who just turns up from Romania or Africa or Asia or anywhere else in the world to just be like, oh, I'm here now. Can I have some benefits? Benefits for what? What have you done to earn any of this? What have you put into the pot? You know, and I think England is the fact that a white guy stabbed you. I think that's no offense. I think it's a stupid argument because blacks and browns stab a lot more than white people in England. Certainly, is that true? Though? Certainly, as a proportion of their racial statistics, they do. It's a lot of young Jamaicans, a lot of young Africans. They may be British. They may be born there. Maybe their parents were immigrants. But it's a lot of... And I know...
But let me say why I said that.
I know people who are in jail for stabbing people. They're black guys who I went to school with.
Let me tell you why I said a white person stabbing, though, because I don't know if you got why I said that.
No, I don't know why you said that.
Yeah, well, let me explain. And it's good to have this conversation.
Yeah, it is good.
It's very healthy.
Yeah, it is good.
What slightly irritates me, and I'd love to get your opinion on it, is when people act like, oh, these immigrants coming into England, making it terrible. It irritates me, and I'm actually a fan of people coming into the country. Number one, it's very difficult to come into England. My wife is an immigrant, and it's not like, oh, they'll just let anybody in and you can come and take benefits. I know a lot of immigrants firsthand that have come in. It's very difficult, and they have to be earning so much a year. I've got a friend who just came in, and he had to be earning £38,000 a year. He had to give money up front to the NHS. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very strict. Illegal immigrants, of course, everybody...
There we go. I was going to say, it's very difficult to come in legally.
Yeah. So to come in legally, it's very difficult. And I think that a lot of people that I know personally who are doing really well, adding value to the economy, setting up businesses, they're immigrants. And this narrative of people are coming in... Also, you know, people say, oh, the Polish people that can barely speak English, they're taking our jobs. I'm like, if Polish people that can barely speak English are coming here taking your jobs, then you're shit. Get better. Yeah. Well, do better.
I agree with you there. I do agree with you there. I am all for, because I know Andrew and I have preached a lot about illegal immigration, and it's always illegal immigration, by the way. I've never...
I don't think anyone could argue with you on that that's bad.
Because by the way, you can research me all you like. I've never criticized legal immigration. ever.
Yeah.
Because I myself am a legal immigrant.
Right.
To Romania, to Dubai. I have residences in other countries. I myself am a legal immigrant.
Yeah.
I don't ask for a handout. I don't show up at the country with my hands out asking for food or housing. I pay my own way. I pay my taxes, and I'm a legal immigrant. I've never once criticized legal immigration. Illegal immigration to me is the problem. And also this idea that how far do I want to go on this? How much do I want to talk about immigration? This is a very interesting argument. I don't like the idea of immigration, legal or otherwise, washing out the culture of any country. Now, I'm talking about England specifically, British culture.
You mean white people?
Yes, well, English people are white people. British people are white people. And as a half black man, if I, you know, it's not about white or black. You can be a British citizen. Certainly. You know, my friends who are just downstairs right now, Nigel and Marcel, good friends of mine, their parents came across from Jamaica. They are British by passport, etc. But British people are white people. They're white people from England because Chinese people are Chinese people from China and Nigerian people are Nigerians from Nigeria. That's the way that the world works, and different people, you know, developed in their own countries, and that's what they look like. I don't like, and no, I don't mean white people necessarily, because lots of my friends, like the two I just mentioned, are very British. I mean British culture. I mean the way we speak. I mean the way that we dress. I mean having Union flags hanging in the streets. I mean double-decker buses. I mean going to the pub on a Sunday. The fact that this is eroded by legal immigration upsets me too, because I don't think a lot of other countries in the world would stand for it. And Romania certainly would not stand for it. It really upsets Romanians, and Romanians are very anti-immigration. And I always try to, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, I always try to bring arguments personally to myself, so I'm never attacking anybody else. So my friend, Marcel, his parents were Jamaican and they moved to England. And I was like, Marcel, are you British or Jamaican? He goes, I don't know. I said, I mean, you're a British citizen and you speak English and whatever, but you're not as British as the white British people. And as a mixed race person, this is where my argument came from. Hear me out, because I know this offends a lot of people and I don't want to get your podcast in trouble. So like with every other argument, I bring it home to myself so I can make my point and then we can apply it elsewhere, because I don't want to talk about anybody else. I have a daughter who was born in Romania. Yes, her mother is English. Yeah. I'm English and American. Now, that daughter of mine who was born in Romania, is she a Romanian?
If she was born in Romania. I don't know what the rules are in Romania.
No. Yeah, but here's the thing. Is it just laws and rules that make somebody a citizen? Because technically, if you fly to the United States right now, pregnant, 9 months pregnant, and you're Chinese with your Chinese wife, and you land there and give birth to the baby, technically that baby's American on paper. No. I'm not asking about laws. I'm not asking about rules. I'm not asking about what the law in Romania is. I'm asking, is my daughter a Romanian to you? Would you consider her a Romanian?
She was born in Romania. She was born to English parents. Did she grow up in Romania or did she move straight back to England?
No. She was living in Romania for a very long time.
I think if she was born there and was raised there,
she's Romanian.
Yeah.
I disagree. And I'm talking about my own kids, so I don't offend anyone else.
Yeah.
I completely disagree. If you understand Romanian history very well, like I do, and you understand everything that country went through, the struggle that people went through to put food on the plates of their kids to raise the next generation. They got their asses kicked at Stalingrad in World War II, famously, with Zhukov's Operation Uranus. They fought against the Roman army. Emperor Trajan conquered the country, wiped out the Dacian population. Everything that these people went through to pass their country on to their own kids, these Romanian people, I and the girl have no right to move there, give birth to a child and say, this is a Romanian too, because my daughter is not a Romanian. She is British because her parents are British. She carries the blood in her veins of the history that my ancestors have written. So I do not consider my own child to be a Romanian. And that's not a controversial opinion, is it? That's my opinion on my child.
No, I don't think it's controversial.
And you know who would agree with me?
Go on.
Every single Romanian.
Right.
They'd all agree that my child is not a Romanian. She may speak the language. I speak the Romanian language. Doesn't matter. My child is a British child because two British people gave birth to her.
What about if she has a kid? If she grows up in Romania and has a kid,
with a Romanian man? Certainly. Certainly, with a Romanian man, yeah, then the Romanian blood is flowing through that child's veins.
Yeah.
And this is a topic that we can sit here and debate, and it's actually very interesting. And when we're talking about my child, we're offending absolutely nobody.
Yeah.
But then you go to Ireland or Germany, and you say two people from Syria who moved there 9 years ago, gave birth to a kid 6 years ago. It's now 6 years old. It's living in Germany. Are they German? Now, you have to say yes. Talking about Ireland, are they Irish? You have to say yes. The two same Afghan people, let's say they gave birth in Germany, you have to say their kid is German. France, you have to say their kid is French. Ireland, you have to say their kid is Irish. But when I talk about my own kid, it's actually a very nuanced argument that's fun to have whether you agree with me or disagree with me, right? But the moment we talk about England and say, well, these two people came over from, I don't know, Mongolia 20 years ago, and they have an 18-year-old kid who speaks English and has a British passport, is that person British? I would say yes, but they're not as British as the white British.
They're not as British?
No, they're not. I'm not as British as the white British. My father was a black American man.
And you have an American accent, so it makes you a bit less British.
Well, I'm not as British as you are. I don't think that's controversial.
Yeah, no,
I really don't think it is.
I don't think so. And I think that where I can probably agree with maybe where you're coming from, not that I know exactly where you're coming from, is you know, if people get offended by the English flag in England, that's ridiculous.
Well, exactly.
Being patriotic and being proud of your country and proud of your... I'm proud to be a white, straight, British Christian man.
Exactly.
And that should be completely non-offensive to say.
So
I'm very with you there. Where I get a little bit irritated, though, is to people that get upset with people coming into the country that are coming in, adding value, being doctors. It's great, and I think it can cause a little bit of division and almost hatred against immigrants. It's not us and them. I'm all about multiculturalism, collaboration. Do you know what I mean? That's my heart.
See, I hate multiculturalism. So
how can you hate multiculturalism? You must eat all these different foods and flavours. I mean, that blows my mind.
I actually can't stand multiculturalism at all. I think if you come to England, fine, make your own food. Let's do it. Food is a non-issue.
Right.
But if you walk around the streets of London, I think you should be speaking English. I think that you should adhere to the customs of the country you live in. There's a saying that I like. You know, I think maybe was it Donald Trump who said it, or was it maybe Tom Homan. It's love the country you live in, or live in the country you love. And multiculturalism, I think, is very divisional, and I think it divides people. And you see, the funny thing about immigration is this. Immigration in England was fantastic, and it worked perfectly. It really did. It worked amazingly in the 1940s and 50s and 60s and 70s. You had Pakistanis, Indians, Jamaicans all coming over. But I asked my friend this. I said, your grandparents moved here from, where did they move from? He went, Jamaica. I said, no. They moved here from the British Empire. The Union flag flew above their school. They had an English headmaster, an English system of law. They believed that their capital was London. They said, God save the Queen. And they all moved here. Why? Because they all had British values. And these are the best immigrants of England. My tailor is a third-generation Indian man. Although my friends, I mean, you see, I've got the most multiracial group of friends in the world. These were the best group of immigrants that ever came to England ever. Because they weren't really coming from a foreign country. They were coming from the British Empire, and they shared our values. That was not multiculturalism, you see. Because these people came to England, and they wanted to be English. These people are more English than I am, even if their grandparents are Indians, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. For me, they're certainly more British than me. I wasn't even born in that country. So it's not just about genetics, and it's not just about bloodlines. It's about a shared culture and a shared value. And multiculturalism is the opposite of that. Like, I like to drink when I go to bars. I like gin and tonics, I like whiskey, I like rum. These are all wonderful drinks. What do you get when you mix them all together? Shit.
Yeah.
That tastes horrible, that you'll spit out the moment you put it in your mouth. I love when I go to Thailand and I see the people speaking Thai, speaking their language, cooking Thai food. You know, I love when I go to Japan and, you know, it's very beautiful. The people are very quiet. It's quiet on the subway. I respect their customs. Russia, wonderful country. Dubai, wonderful country. You wake up to the call to prayer here. I'm a Christian. The call of prayer is blasting. I'm like, yeah, this is their country, their land. They're Muslims, they're Arabs, and they own it. This is Dubai, and that's the way we're going to run things. You go to England, it's like, oh, let's all be multicultural all of a sudden. And I'm like, no, I want to go to England, and I'm not a racist, I'm mixed race. But I want to see overwhelmingly, I want to see white English people walking around, you know, dressed in suits with their top hats, you know, bobbies with their little sticks, not armed police going there to shoot down terrorists. I want to see red phone boxes and double-decker buses. I want England to be English. It should be the English culture only in England. So no multiculturalism. It should be the Irish culture in Ireland, the Scottish culture in Scotland, and the multiculturalism is absolutely evil because no other country accepts this. Romania does not accept multiculturalism. Why do I speak their language? It's useless. I learned it when I went there because they are Romanians. They do things the Romanian way, and I've gone there and integrated into their society.
Do you speak Romanian?
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
Do you?
No.
Well,
I don't live there.
Then I can't prove it. But yeah, no Romanians here, no. But yeah, essentially, I think multiculturalism is toxic, and Romania is a wonderful country.
I strongly disagree. But you know what's interesting? The fact that we can sit here and have a conversation and disagree and shake hands, and respect each other.
Yeah, because you can still understand my points.
Yeah,
you can think differently to me and not agree with them.
But that's what people we're missing in today's culture. In today's culture, we all have a conversation.
Yes.
And the comments will either be Tristan Tate's racist scum.
Yes.
Or, yes, he's completely right. There's no balance.
There's no in between, yeah.
No.
And I do get the people, when you have no bad experience of multiculturalism and you're there.
I live in a house, a multicultural house.
Yeah, so do I. Essentially.
So how can you hate multiculturalism when that's your home?
Well, as a society, me and everybody around us has to respect the traditions and culture of the country that we live in. And multiculturalism is the opposite. There are streets in Bradford, England, where you can walk down and you do not even know you're in England. You know that's true. I know that's true. I'm not saying those people shouldn't be in England. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I should walk down the street in Bradford and it should feel like England, and multiculturalism can get lost, you know?
Yeah, I think that you need to respect the country you're in.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. But I love multiculturalism. I love, when I'm running an event and there's all different people and groups love that.
That's great. I mean, I think we're
maybe
on slightly different pages. We're on slightly different pages here, but
we'll let the people in the comments decide.
We'll let the people in the comments decide. But if you take it from travel, when you go to Italy, for example,
you're not going to let this one go now.
No, I'm absolutely not. And you go to Milan, right? Yeah. Do you want to see a bunch of skinny, tanned dudes with curly mustaches making pasta and saying, buongiorno, and, selling you espressos and sitting there on their little Vespa scooters? Or do you want to see what you currently see in Milan, which is a bunch of brown people loitering because they've come across on dinghies? Oh, it's multicultural, though. Because there's, Afghans and Syrians. I love multiculturalism.
Let's let the people decide in the comments.
Italy.
You're still pissed off on
us. Screw the pasta and the espresso. I want to see hostile brown people.
You're still pissed off that I said a white person stabbed me. You're why are you telling me they're a white person?
Well, I do think that was a very stupid argument.
The reason I don't think it was stupid is because the whole narrative is around white people don't do it. It's all the immigrants.
Oh no,
My experience is now I got stabbed by a white person.
I don't think that at all. I don't think that at all. And I think criminals need to be punished to the absolutely highest degree, no matter where they're from.
Yeah.
Someone sent me this recently. I was speaking about against the. I was mentioning and conversing about the grooming gang scandal in the UK, which everyone, brown, black, white, can all agree is disgusting.
Yeah.
These people literally need their heads chopped off. But irregardless, some retard, and I'm being very polite by calling him a retard, sent me a article on X, and they said, "Oh, look, here's a bunch of white people who are raping girls. What have you got to say now?" And I was like...
Yeah, that's stupid.
And I was like, well, show me where the government tried to cover up this so that it didn't upset other white people. They're like, well, I can't show you that. Well, then you don't even know what I'm mad about. It's not the grooming gangs, which obviously we all find abhorrent. It was the fact that the government tried to cover it up to not hurt what? Multiculturalism. To not upset the idea of multiculturalism and integration, and not to upset the Pakistani community, because they were overwhelmingly Pakistani men.
Yeah.
Yes, there are white people who run grooming gangs in England, I'm very sure. Until you can show me that the government tried to cover it up as not to offend other white people, they are not the same issue. Because the issue with the grooming gang scandal, and the reason we're talking about it all these years later, isn't necessarily just the grooming. It's the fact that the government were covering their eyes and arresting the girls for being drunk at these guys' houses when they were being abused.
Right.
And doing all this fucked up stuff to not upset the Pakistani community. And I say it was the Pakistani community. Why? Because I'm a racist? No. Because it was Pakistanis who were doing it. And when Americans do something bad, I call them out. When I'm white and black, when a guy who's white or black does something bad, I'll call them out. It's nothing to do with hatred. It's just about being a reasonable, rational person.
No, I understand what you're saying. And I think what some people might argue in defence would be a little bit, and I think the fact they covered that up is obviously disgusting, and what they did was terrible. But if a white person stabs somebody, they won't put white man stabs somebody. If a Christian does something, I'm Christian, you're Christian, they won't say Christian. But with some of the, like that, for instance, they were saying Muslim men are doing this, Muslim, do you know what I mean? So it's why are you saying they're Muslim? What's that got to do with it?
The media works in two different ways.
It does.
To be honest. However, when Axel Rudakabana committed what may be the most heinous crime in British history in my recent memory, when he went into that Taylor Swift dance concert and butchered 9 girls, killing 3 with a knife Why didn't they release his mugshot? They were showing us photographs of him as a very young kid, 9 or 10 years old, where he looked innocent and sweet. Did you eventually see his mugshot?
I don't
If you had showed the mugshot.
Oh, yeah, the mugshot.
If you had showed that to the people and you say, this savage just killed kids.
Right.
And then you found out that his father came to the UK just after the Rwandan genocide and he was implicated in a bunch of violent crimes over there. You'd be like, well, why is this guy here? Is he Welsh? He's as Welsh as my daughter is Romanian, in my opinion. And Axel Rudakabana is an animal, and they didn't show you his mugshot, right?
Yeah.
However, if there's a target that the media wants to slander, black, white, or otherwise, like myself and my brother, when they said the Tate brothers arrested on human trafficking charges, where was the photo of me and Andrew at 12 years old holding hands with our little bowl haircuts?
Yeah.
No? You show photos of me in the kickboxing ring, looking like a big aggressive savage. So it's all about what the media want to portray at that moment. And it's not necessarily, as you said, aimed at Muslims or aimed at minorities, because in the case of Axel Rudakabana, they protected him. They protected him, they wouldn't release his name, and then people started speculating. Was it a Muslim terrorist? Was it a brown person? Was it a black person? And then people started speculating, and when they got details wrong, they put those people in jail. And I'm like, well, if you don't want people to get details wrong, tell us who did it and why immediately, because we're all outraged.
I think one of the things that you and I definitely heard Andrew say, which I love, is there's no racism amongst billionaires.
No, there's not.
When you're rich, no one cares. That's how I feel.
It's
no one cares.
It's not even billionaires. It's just
no,
people
it's just business people that are wealthy and doing well.
And even more so than that, it's people who have got a nice, good life for themselves.
Yeah.
You think in an NHS hospital where there are hardworking nurses and doctors and surgeons, and the NHS is a very, very multiracial organization. And anybody with any medical degree, whether it be in nursing or cardiology, who wants to come to England and work for the NHS should be allowed immediately. By the way, that's not the type of immigration that Andrew and I have ever spoken against. You think in that hospital where they're all colleagues who show up to work on time and need to run the hospital and, need to work together, you think there's any racism in there? No, it's the people who have their lives together don't care about race. But when you push people down and I guess when you run an economic policy that keeps a lot of the people in the UK in absolute poverty, they look for somebody to blame. And they look around them because they don't see who's really to blame. They can't look up. They can't get into the rooms where the people are making bad financial decisions that are destroying their towns and destroying their cities. So they look around at other people in their community and they look for somebody to blame. And they look for the people who don't look like them, whether they be Romanians, whether they be Albanians or Moroccans or Somalis or Chinese. Yeah. That's what they do. And so people who have their lives in good order amongst other people who have their lives in good order, there is no racism. Yeah. Unless you're doing it as a joke, which is funny. Yeah. My group of friends is 2 black guys, an Algerian, some white Christian Bible basher guy from Texas. I've got a ginger redneck dude from Louisiana. It's myself and my brother who are both mixed race. We've got 2 Romanians. That's the most racist group of friends in the world, but it's all funny. Yeah. It's a joke. No, that's how men talk to each other.
I think it's important to bring people together. And I think when you're making money, you're doing business together. I know you wouldn't care. You don't care if you're doing business with a black person with your mixed race. But I think
like Japanese, someone who's not me. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. Whereas the media, I believe, try and divide us. Yeah. And then we're arguing about all kinds of stuff.
And then they'll take people who make very reasonable points, like me talking about my own Romanian daughter, and then call me racist. Or I once I said James Bond should be white and he shouldn't be black, and they called me a racist. Yeah. Against black people, even though my father's black. And my father was a military man who was black, like James Bond was, but I just think James Bond should be white because he was a white character. Like they'll take things that aren't racist and try and say, oh, Tristan Tate, this is the racist right here. When really it's the losers sitting around with no money on the dole in their pubs, furious that high qualified, Indian surgeons are coming to take their jobs, and these people have done nothing with their lives. Exactly. Those are the racists, Yeah. I'm not but they need, they're
the dummies. But
they need poster boys for racism.
But sometimes those people, I think, do listen to some of the stuff you say. Exactly. And it fuels them in the wrong way, and they might miss your point even.
People, what's absolutely crazy to me is in the scene in that Adolescence that I've seen go viral on the internet, there's a black guy in the scene talking to this little white kid who's supposed to be some sort of stabber. And that black guy is a rapper, Asher D is his name. Now, Asher D and all of these grime artists rapped for 20 years about stabbing each other, dealing drugs, shotting coke, doing this. And then he has the audacity to take part in a TV show where they're going to blame all the world's stabbings on Andrew Tate, who preaches go to the gym and be responsible and take care of your family. I'm like, I'm not blaming his music. but it's more his fault than it is Andrew's, you know? So people can misinterpret all sorts of messages, and I think music is the big one. Music is bigger than Andrew Tate or Tristan Tate or you, who could be misunderstood. I mean, we can all be misinterpreted and misunderstood because not everybody's minds work on the same level.
Yeah.
However, when you listen to music, let's go stab the ops, let's go juke them, take their coke. I'm like, what the, like, you're blaming me.
Yeah.
Music is the big one.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's why I find it shocking that you get such a bad rep and the media give you such a hard time when they let Jimmy Carr off making paedophile jokes, and it doesn't make
They had
sense.
to give me the bad rep, which leads into the question that we were talking about beforehand.
Yes.
They had to give me a bad rep because, as you said, Andrew and I had no hate. We were very well loved.
No hate.
And the funny thing is, we still are. The media convinces you that we're hated because the media doesn't shut up about me. But we're still very well loved.
Most of the comments from the Andrew Tate video that I posted 2 days ago, most of it's positive.
Exactly.
I mean, there might be a few negative,
cares?
but the majority.
The people who believe the media will type negative comments.
But the majority is positive.
Yeah, it is. And they had to give us a bad rep when they found out, I'll say it quite frankly, how big our balls were. We talked a lot of shit. And the moment we showed that we were willing to expose things and we really weren't going to listen to global, and at this point, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people were listening to us, that we were willing to put ourselves in danger to open other people's eyes, that's when they came for us. They came for us when I went to Sweden. COVID lockdowns happened in England, Germany, the United States, the UAE, all across Asia, China. COVID lockdowns were global. And as we all know now, you could have just done no lockdowns and it would have been probably basically fine. So I was like, I don't believe them. And I was saying, I don't believe them. Still no hate. Nothing bad was happening. I get on the last flight from Romania to Stockholm, Sweden. 2 countries decided not to do lockdowns, Belarus and Sweden. They said no lockdowns, no vaccine mandates. It's all open doors, which is fine because English people can't see Sweden, can they? They don't see that in Sweden everyone's dancing around in nightclubs and partying and walking around and holding hands and kissing each other. The English people can't see that until Andrew and I went there and started live streaming. Hey guys, look what's going on in Sweden. Why are you in your houses? Are you stupid? Why do you believe what the government's saying? Hey, look at this. Here, look, here's a man and a woman walking down the road holding hands with a kid walking through a crowd. No one cares. COVID's fake. That's when they thought we have to do something about these two. That's the moment. And
interesting.
I think that was the turning point.
Do you regret or do you have no regrets?
No, I have no regrets because I was right.
Right. So you just stand by it. Do you think that sometimes...
I was correct. I never made a bad call. Lots of people criticize me, people who want to be in Andrew's place. People like Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro are very happy to criticize Andrew because they want to be the guy who young men look up to, but nobody looks up to them. But they got the vaccine and then they apologize later. A lot of people, you see, they make these mistakes and apologize later. Or they make these errors or they buy into the government bullshit and they apologize later. I'm telling you, in 3 years' time, the Tristan and Andrew Tate are human traffickers story is going to be the vaccine is safe and effective. It's going to be, that's what it's going to be. People buy into these things and later apologize. Andrew and I, from the first second, are like, no, this is absolutely bullshit. We're not partaking in this. We know it's fake. And we stuck by our guns. And I think that a lot of big money was involved in COVID. A lot of power players were involved in COVID. The people who run the media were certainly involved in COVID. And at that point, we had raised the black flag and shown ourselves to be enemies of the state. And that's when the hate started. And people believed the media. So some people who loved us eventually became, swayed and started hating us. But it's a very small minority. People overwhelmingly love us.
Yeah. Well, we saw that, as you said, when we came in.
Oh, yeah. It's hard. I have to take security guards everywhere I go.
Yeah.
It's and I don't mind people asking for photos. But the problem is they don't understand how much time it takes. They're like, oh, it's just a photo. Or one guy was just like, why are you being so arrogant? I turned around, I said, there's 30 of you here. Like, it's not just one photo. Like, my taxi's here. I have to get in the car. 30 photos, that's 15 minutes. He's not, I'm sorry, I'm leaving. Like, if you walk from one end of the mall to the other, it may take 15 minutes. If you stop for every photo, it's 45 minutes. I haven't got the time in the day. So I do try to take photos of as many people as possible. But people do love Andrew and I.
Question about marketing. So, for someone starting a business, we've talked about sales. They need to learn to sell, and sales is the best skill on the planet. A lot of people, because I did a post and said, watch Ask Tristan, and a lot of people were saying, how does he go so viral? And I know it's maybe slightly more of an Andrew question a little bit, but you must know.
I understand.
Give us some tips about marketing, blowing up, going viral.
Well, I will not tell you my secrets.
Oh, damn.
Andrew and I have secrets. Think of it this way. I am currently, I think this is going to change very soon, but I am currently banned on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. I am only allowed on X, which isn't the platform that everyone checks every day. And I make posts and put them on Rumble, which is a YouTube competitor, much smaller. Very few people have heard of this. How on earth do two men who have only Rumble and X, you cannot scroll any platform in the world and not see my face.
Can't.
Now that is a secret I will not divulge. Because that is a superpower that Andrew and I have.
It's a superpower. And if someone hates you, they will see you every day.
Oh yeah.
They'll see you every day, which must be quite revenge. Success is the best revenge.
It's very funny.
And
it's very funny. Well, people, you're going to prison. You're definitely going to prison last year. Now I'm in Dubai.
Yeah.
Driving my $5 million car around. These people must be hurting.
You and Andrew must be some of the most famous people in the world. I mean, you've got like Elon Musk, Donald Trump. There's a few. As you say, even though you're banned from all the platforms, you cannot scroll without seeing you guys.
Now that's a secret I won't
Is that a secret inside of Hustlers University?
I do.
At least bits of it.
I do allude to it. In the marketing campus of our university.
How much is Hustlers University right now?
$49 a month, and it's remained that way since we started the product.
That's amazing.
We've been under attack by the media. They've said it's a misogynistic platform that teaches people how to hate women or all sorts of nonsense. So I just post video interviews of me with women who are inside the platform who've transformed their businesses. I post them all over online, and then everyone's kind of shut up about it because it's now gotten to the point where the legacy of it is too strong and it's been around for too many years, and they've said everything bad they can about it. But people, even people who dislike me, will join it and find value in there somewhere, whether it be the health and fitness campus, whether it be the business mastery campus, whether it be e-commerce or...
You know what, Tristan? You can't burn the same ground twice.
Exactly.
And they've tried to burn you down bad.
I'm still on fire.
And I'm happy to hear that.
But I'm going to survive the fire.
Once everything's gone and the charges are gone.
Yes.
Which we pray that they will be. And you know they will be.
They will be.
Because you've not done anything
I'm telling you, they will be.
I'm glad to hear it on this exclusive sit down.
I mean...
But they can't burn, you can't burn you again. Once everyone knows and they have... Once the BBC have to apologise and once they have to say, actually, there was no charges, they were innocent all along, they can't come with it again.
They could. They might try, but it depends. I feel like
I hope not. And I think that the legacy. I mean, for you, what do you want to be remembered for? What's the legacy that you're trying? Because you don't have to work. You've made tens and tens, maybe hundreds of millions of pounds. Okay, hundreds of millions of pounds. You're still working hard. Maybe not quite as hard as Andrew, but you're still working hard. Yeah. You're coming on this podcast. You don't have to do this. A lot of people say, "How much do you have to pay?" I'm like, no, these guys come on. Just because I'll
only make people pay if I don't like them.
Oh,
if I know someone's going to like be rude to me.
I hope I'm not being rude today. I know we've had a little bit of a debate, but I hope you've not taken that.
Like the ability to be a civil person. Society should be built on the ability to sit down with people you disagree with.
Yeah,
and have a drink together.
I've got nothing but respect. Yeah, but
and then walk off at the end.
But we can discuss and we can challenge.
We disagree on very little essentially, but I feel like the world used to be a lot more like that.
Yeah.
Let's take American politics, for example. Back in 1994, 1990, back in the Jimmy Carter and George H. Bush and, the old, maybe Bill Clinton days, you'd cast your vote. You voted Democrat? Cool. I voted Republican? Cool. See you in 4 years. You want to go for a beer? Fine.
Yeah.
The media, certainly, the Matrix, as Andrew calls it, the deep state, have tried so hard to get their people in charge of the world that they've created a visceral hatred for who I think are the good guys, the slightly more right-wing politicians. For the good guys, they've created a visceral hatred for them. Whereas if I say the name Donald Trump to some people, they'll be like, he's a racist and a murderer and a rapist and a psycho. I'm like, but why? Tell me something racist he ever said. Well, he just is. Everyone knows that. Well, just like everyone knows I'm a human trafficker, right? So this visceral hatred that they've built up for opposing teams have also then done the reverse effect. They've made us Republicans hate the Democrats because we can't even talk to these people anymore without them foaming at the mouth and going psycho about Elon Musk trying to steal their Social Security money. I'm like, the dude's got 400. Do you even know how much 400 billion is? So irregardless, the world used to be much more civil, and it's sad that now you can't even be a person who votes for a different political party than your friends without people attacking you and swinging for you. I just feel like I'll sit down with people who disagree with me all day. As long as they're not going to give me some bullshit interview, some out of context videos and some fake screenshot conversations. If you want to actually talk to me about something, I'd sit down with
Yeah.
basically anyone in the world.
Yeah.
If they're capable of being civil. But
Yeah.
most people aren't.
Well, that's the thing with the BBC, that they'll interview you for an hour and a half. Like, this will go out completely uncut.
Yeah.
Some people said with my last interview, Andrew, you cut bits, and it's like, yeah, because the microphone kept overheating.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, we're not chopping it up or trying to make it out of context. But BBC will do an hour and a half interview, and they'll put out 20 seconds.
Well, that's why when Andrew...
You're smart. You're smart at this because you told him.
Yeah, when Andrew spoke about Lucy from the BBC, we don't trust the BBC.
Yeah.
So the interview that you would have seen would have made Andrew look bad if you had seen it the BBC's way. However, I recorded the whole thing on my own camera. And the moment she left, I said, fuck her. She doesn't have an exclusive on us. She's a loser. And I released the full interview. And I was like, Andrew destroyed the BBC. By the time the BBC 4 days later put their 9-minute version of the hour interview out, everyone's like, oh, they chopped it up. No one cares. So we beat them.
Yeah.
But,
and that's smart. It's a smart thing to do that. I'll do that if I go for interviews.
With people who are hostile, I put another camera there.
Yeah. That's smart. Well, you don't use that with me because this will be going out completely uncut.
Good. Beautiful.
Of course. Unless you sneezed or something, you know.
I don't know.
But you're a Christian. Tell me about that, because I think it was a reasonably-ish recent thing, right? When you're in Romania.
No, it's 7 years.
Okay.
We're talking a good long while.
So you actual Christian, or would tick it on a box?
No, I'm an actual.
Love Jesus.
I'm an actual Christian. Love Jesus. Go to church.
I love that, man. Let me shake your hand for that.
Absolutely.
I respect that.
I wouldn't claim to be something that I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, I was non-religious for a very long time.
Yeah.
And when I became a Christian, I owned it wholly and fully.
That's fantastic. And previously, I know you and Andrew were atheists. What made you believe in God at all? What made you realise?
Well, I think let me think. It was my experience with life, because I actually started off religious. But you start off religious typically because it was my dad's sisters, mainly my aunts and uncles in America, my grandma who would take me to church and stuff. And I thought that everyone believed in the same religion, because I was living in some state in the United States, the internet didn't exist. And I thought everyone believed in the same religion, everyone knows that God's real, and everyone knows that Jesus died for our sins. And that's just like, every human in the world knows this. And it was moving to England, actually, when I met a guy who was a Sikh, and I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck is this? You know? Oh, you're a Muslim, you're a Sikh, you're a Hindu? What the fuck? Wait, 1 second. So I looked into a bunch of religions, and I used to argue with this kid named, keep in mind, I'm like 9 at this point. I used to argue with this kid about why my religion was true, why his wasn't, blah, blah, blah. We used to go back and forth all day. And I just kind of, one day, realized that I was only religious because my parents had taught me this certain religion, which is the reason most people are religious, to be fair, unless they actually look into their religion. And I fell away from it, and I decided that none of the religions were true. But as I got older and richer and found more time, I'm an avid reader. I read a lot of books. I started reading all the holy books again. I've read basically every one of every major religion that exists. Started reading the Bible again. I started researching Christianity, and I started researching Christian history, and the story of how Christianity spread around the world and how it moved from the Middle East, throughout all of Europe and Northern Africa, etc. And I fell back into Christianity because I understood it. As a kid, I was a Christian because my parents had told me to believe in X, Y, and Z. Never read a Bible. Most Christians have never read a Bible cover to cover. And it's like, yeah, I am this religion. My parents have told me that that's it, which is fine. By all means, take your parents' word on authority. But I think I was too cocky as a young man to just be like, I'm going to believe this because my parents said so. So I went years and years and years just not looking into it. I dismissed it. If I'd done some research earlier, perhaps I would have become a Christian much sooner. But it was when I started looking back into it, I was like, okay. Yeah, there's some truth to this. There's some truth to this. Well, that would be one hell of a coincidence. And then there you go. There you go. I'm a Christian again. Yeah. So. I
love that story. And I think I sensed you probably were when you had the verse in. And I said, what does it say? And you knew the verse. Yeah. Because Donald Trump's funny when he says, I love the Bible. No one loves the Bible more than me. What's your favourite verse? Oh, I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah. Well, which one was that short one? Jesus wept. The short one, I can't remember.
Jesus
the shortest verse of the Bible.
The verse
just remember that one. Yeah.
But no, that's great. And I think, talking of the UK, I think we need to come back to God. And I think that if there's a revival in the UK, I think
it's going to be a Christian revival.
And it will solve everything. It will solve everything.
I agree. It has to be. There has to be a Christian revival in the UK because the political system is trying to be too fair, and it's far too weak for a great leader to come along and sweep the UK off its feet. If you see, I don't know if you like Trump or not, but I like Trump. He's a great leader.
Just because I said I respect Keir Starmer doesn't mean.
I'm just saying I didn't know your opinions. But Trump came along and swept the USA off its feet, and the USA was failing. USAID was just funding everything in the world, and Donald Trump came along as a great leader and won this big election. In the UK, that's almost not possible. With the first past the post system and the constituencies and whoever, look into this if you're at home. I'm not going to give a whole lecture on how it works. But it's impossible for one great man to come along and say, I'm going to fix the UK.
Yeah.
You need 630 people.
Right.
But, it's very, very tricky. So, yeah, there has to be a Christian revival in the UK and a grassroots, I guess, uprising. More so than there needs to be some sort of political takeover to save the people who are currently living there with their mindset.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I've got some fire questions to end, but I do want to say this has been a really good interview.
Yeah,
and you look fantastic as well. And I've enjoyed it, man.
I've
enjoyed it. So I've got some fire questions.
Let's go.
So, just a few. Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, Anthony Joshua will smash him.
I think so.
Jake's I guess a friend of mine. He's an acquaintance of mine now. I speak to him sometimes. And I respect him, and he's done something very difficult. A lot of people in his position would have just cashed out, got fat, got hooked on drugs, ended up sleeping with some porn star and just wasted their life away. He dedicated himself to fight sports, which is something I did in reverse. I was dedicated to fight sports back when no one cared, and I was a nobody fighting for almost no money. But I was very good at them, and then I went on to build my business and build my online platform. He built his online platform on being a jackass, dancing around in Pokemon costumes when YouTube was new. He was in the right place at the right time from his Disney kid management, etc. I don't want to take anything away from him, but I'm giving him massive credit from moving from the soft life into the difficult fighter's life.
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua, I actually sparred Anthony Joshua once many years ago. Yeah, but I know if I see him, we'll say hi. Like I know who he is. He knows who I am. Good dude. Single-handedly saved the reputation of British boxing by knocking out Francis Ngannou, who I respect.
Yeah.
But the performance Tyson Fury, who I'm a big fan of, again put on, made people question, is boxing actually legit? Or is it can't you just know how to punch and get in there?
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua single-handedly saved the reputation of heavyweight boxing. Massive fan of his, and he beat the fuck out of Jake Paul. I mean,
I think so.
But
Jake Paul wants to actually fight him.
And good, and I hope he makes a lot of money, and I hope he doesn't get his neck broken or anything serious, and I hope that he wakes up the next day after his 12-hour coma, and he's perfectly healthy. And I hope he, gets back to training and gets back to inspiring young men to, take up boxing, take up fight sports, which he is doing to some degree. So, yeah, respect.
I like Jake Paul, though. I like Jake Paul.
I have nothing against Jake.
Interesting his dynamic with his brother compared to the dynamic with you and Andrew. A lot of people have talked about that. Have you seen the videos, the contrast videos?
I have, and I would say that me and Andrew are me and Andrew. We're one in a million.
Next fire question. The Apprentice or Dragon's Den? As a UK man?
Dragon's Den.
Why?
I just found it a more enjoyable watch.
Do you like Lord Sugar?
Yeah, one of the quotes he said about 18 years ago inspired me and made me think I need to be rich. He said, they asked him about how he goes shopping.
Yeah.
And he says, well, Harrods will usually close sections off for me when I go into Harrods. And they asked him, do you look at prices? And he said, at this point in my life, if there's a shirt I like, I'm going to have the shirt, and the price is whatever the price is. That was the quote. And I didn't get it until I was maybe 28 or 29, when it got to the point where, Ferrari, yeah, I'll have it. Like, I want the car, the price is whatever the price is. And it's something Lord Sugar said, maybe 20 years ago. I don't know how old the quote actually was, but I saw it and I thought, I need to be that guy. I need to be that guy when I'm at my tailor on Savile Row saying, give me this gold jacket and this jacket encrusted with jade, a full suit, and give me these pair of handmade alligator shoes, and give me this and this and this. Send me the invoice. I want those things. The price is whatever the price is. And Alan Sugar, I found him very inspirational as a younger man. So I like a lot of aspects of his character. I can respect him.
Okay. What about Dragon's Den? What do you think of Stephen Bartlett? I've noticed that you've not been on his show. You've not been on...
No. Well, I'll be perfectly honest. Last time I watched Dragon's Den was 15 or 16 years ago. No, 12 years ago.
But you know who Stephen Bartlett is?
No, I don't.
You don't know who Stephen
Bartlett is? I can't remember which one he is. I remember all the old school dragons. See, I don't watch TV. I don't even listen to music.
Have you heard of The Diary of a CEO?
No.
Bro, where have you been? In prison.
Yeah, exactly. I had plenty of time to read there, but no one sent it to me.
Check it out,
You could have sent me the book, bro.
I'd have to send you.
You want me to read it? You could have sent me a copy.
I should have sent you a copy.
Yeah.
Check him out. I'd love to see you on his podcast, The Diary of a CEO.
Well,
it'd be a really good chat. But Stephen Bartlett's one of the new Dragon's Den, and he's
See,
awesome.
I haven't watched television in years, and I certainly haven't watched UK television.
He hosted a debate with your mate Gary Stevenson from Gary Economics.
Yes.
You know Gary.
I know who he is.
Yeah, me and Andrew had a good chat about him.
I know who he is.
Yeah.
He's your mate.
Yeah, he's not my mate. He's not my mate at all. Mate, I don't know what it is. I feel like where do you think I am politically? On the scale of left or right? Centre right.
Centre right.
Yeah, I'll take
Probably.
that. I'll probably take that.
Stop the illegal boats, let the good ones in.
Yeah.
That's where I am.
Yeah.
To be honest. That's exactly where I am. I feel like I'm just slightly braver to speak about issues because
I say whatever I think.
Yeah, fair.
I don't have sponsors.
Fair. I didn't mean you. I mean the general public. If you say like you should never have let Axel's father into Wales, which is fair. People will say racist, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm half black.
Yeah.
You have a mixed race kid.
I do.
I just noticed. Yeah. So people can't call you racist either.
Well, they can.
Just because you've
got a mixed race kid as well, I don't think that means you can't be racist.
Maybe. It makes it a bit unlikely, though, doesn't it? It's got to be a bit unlikely.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
I mean, my mother was once sitting in a dinner in America.
I don't know, actually. I don't think it does. I think that you can be mixed race and still be racist because you can just hate the white side or the black side of you. But if you hate yourself...
Yeah, yes. If you're a self-hating person.
What about people that whiten their skin? People that might be mixed race, but they whiten their skin and they hate the black. They
or if you hate one of your parents, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly scenarios. Yeah,
but probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
If you love both your parents and one's black and one's white, and you accept your identity as a mixed race person, you're not going to be it.
Okay, next question. Would you rather be locked in prison with Gary Stevenson or Keir Starmer?
Which prison?
A Romanian prison cell.
A Romanian prison
with cockroaches and Gary Stevenson or Keir Starmer?
Keir Starmer.
Why?
Because I'd love to watch his mental breakdown. I think he's a very, I think he's a very mentally weak person. When I see him speak publicly and answer difficult questions, I think that I'd love to just witness it and then tell people this is your prime minister. He's the one who cried at the door saying, "Oh, please let me go," and "Oh, please give me another phone call to my lawyer." That's the kind of guy he is, and I would love to witness it so I could tell people.
So you'd actually like to be in prison with Keir Starmer, probably, rather than jet setting
I'd take it right now. Give me 6 months. I'd take it. Keir Starmer.
Would you really? You'd happily go to prison for 6 months if it meant you were with Keir Starmer for 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. But I like to be in prison with a lot of people because it depends on what prison and what you get away with. I said it on X famously. I tweeted Keir Starmer. I said, Keir, if your government's gonna set me up and throw me in jail for no reason, just put me in the same cell as Axel Ruda Cabana. That's all I ask.
I saw that tweet.
That's all I ask.
I saw that tweet.
It's not asking for much.
Yeah.
Well, on your knife, let's see who's the tough guy.
Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson?
Who would I rather be in jail with?
No. Who do you think would be a better person for your kids to listen to?
Oh, Jesus. I think Ben Shapiro. No. I think Ben Shapiro is one of the worst people in the world. Yeah, potentially.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's inherently an evil person. Jordan Peterson is a former drug addict and a crybaby, and he has no emotional control, and he preaches about stoicism and manliness, and he's skinny as a rake, looks like a dweeb, doesn't work out. And I think he's a massive hypocrite. However, the things he says are true. If Jordan Peterson were Anon, you'd be like, this guy is a guy with his life together. This guy would never be a drug addict. Yeah. He's focused. He's sharp. He's smart. He's definitely in great shape, clearly. I mean, the things this guy says. Yeah. So Jordan Peterson is a lot less threatening because a lot of the things he says are very good. However, he is a hypocrite. He absolutely is a hypocrite. He's the you put him through what I've just been through, he'd be hanging in his closet by now. 100%. He's mentally weak. He's very mentally weak and overly emotional. And he preaches stoicism. Him, of all people. I can find roadmen from Luton who could preach stoicism better than he can. These people have been poor and had no food to eat, living in homeless shelters. I can show you stoic people. He's not the guy. Sure, he has his university degree and he knows the arguments. What was it? Thucydides once said, the nation that separates its scholars from its soldiers will have its fighting. No, will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools. Right? Now that's a very, very good quote. And I think the truth behind it is a man needs to be both. And this sounds like the kind of thing Jordan Peterson would say, which is ironic. Because if you are not physically strong, fit, with a warrior's mindset, and you want to be an intellectual, okay, well then you're going to come with your intellectual power at the world from the wrong angle because you do not understand physical force, you know? Whereas if you're a big, strong, aggressive brute with absolutely no brain cells and no IQ and no intellect and no understanding of history or philosophy or politics or anything, then you're just an idiot who's useful for nothing. You know, you're a fool who could fight. So that's the kind of thing Jordan Peterson says, and it's very, very true. But I'm like, why is anyone listening to this guy then? Because he's an absolute melt, we'd say in English. He's a dweeb. He cries his eyes out every time he's asked a difficult question. I could talk about my kids getting death threats and all this, and I'm not sitting here going, that's Jordan Peterson. But what he preaches is so opposite to who he is. So yeah, I'd rather my kids listen to Jordan Peterson, but I'd cover up the screen.
You know what's funny? I like to withhold judgment until I meet someone. And I love a lot of what Jordan Peterson says.
Usually me too. Why am I roasting him on your podcast? Because he doesn't withhold judgment until he meets someone.
Okay.
He won't shut the fuck up about why me and Andrew, or especially to be fair, he doesn't mention me. I'm not going to.
But you guys are one.
Yeah,
you're in business.
If he knows Andrew, he knows who I am. But he will not shut up about Andrew, and he won't stop calling Andrew names, and he won't stop telling Andrew's insecure or toxic. I'm like, you don't know my brother.
Right.
Shut the fuck up about my brother. You've never met the guy.
Yeah.
You've never had a conversation with him. Shut up. I live with him.
That's fair game.
Yeah.
It's fair game.
So as far as I'm concerned, he can go fuck himself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about Jordan Peterson. He preaches about how you need to raise your kids right. I mean, his daughter's now married to some new dude but has a kid with a previous guy. I'm like, just shut up, Jordan, because you don't practice what you preach. And if you're going to start saying my name, then I'm going to start saying your name.
Yeah.
Why don't you shut up about me and I shut up
that's
about
fair.
you?
If someone comes for you, then
that's fair. Shut up about my brother and I'll shut up about him.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
But my points on him are valid.
Yeah.
Don't tell me they're not. Do not tell me they're not.
They're valid.
Thank
Tristan,
you.
It's been a real pleasure. I appreciate you coming down to the podcast.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a part 2 sometime. Maybe
Sure.
in some country.
One of
Maybe
these days.
we'll see what
After
happens.
I get out of the next jail.
Yeah, after you get out of the next jail.
Exactly.
Hopefully with Keir Starmer.
Yeah. Oh no, I'd love it.
We'll see. My brother, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.